Today, I discovered that my friend was robbing me blind after I let him stay at my apartment to try and help him out. Because despite the fact that this guy was sleeping in his car before I helped him out, he still stole from me so blatantly and obviously. But now after kicking him out of my house, I'm kind of wondering if I made a mistake, because I did this right after he got fired from his job. And I'm just not sure if I should have waited or if this was the right thing to do. Welcome back to Am I the Jerk, where your best friend can rob you blind after you help him out. This first story is one of those nightmare scenarios where you hope it never happens to you. So sit down for this one. This is a fun one. I think you're going to enjoy this. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk if you haven't already. Click the bell to turn on notifications. And with that, let's get started. Okay, so my friend moved in with me last summer after breaking up with his girlfriend. He had been sleeping in his car for a couple of days and looked completely devastated. So I offered to let him stay with me temporarily. Now, the deal itself was simple. He would stay for a month at most until he found a job and a place to live. And he also doesn't have any family here. All his relatives are in another state, so he didn't really have any other options at the time. Now, at first, everything was fine. He got a job at a small electronics store, he chipped in for rent, and sometimes bought some food for us. But then things started getting weird. Now, for me personally, I'm a creature of habit. I always leave my watch, my wallet, and keys in the same spots. Well, I started noticing that things weren't where I'd left them. A couple of times, money went missing from my jacket pockets. And this is not huge amounts. We're talking maybe $10 or $20, but it was enough for me to notice. One day, I came home early and I saw him coming out of my room. He then immediately started saying he was looking for the vacuum cleaner, even though it's in the storage room and he knows that perfectly. After that, I started feeling really strange. So a couple weeks later, I set up my old phone to record in my room, which is a place he wasn't even supposed to go into. And yeah, I know it sounds sketchy, but hear me out. Eventually, I caught him on camera. And in the video, I saw him rummaging through my desk, opening up an envelope I had that was full of cash, taking a few bills out, then putting on my watch and filming himself in the mirror. He also sent someone a voice message saying something like, "Oh yeah, he's got so much stuff here, he won't even notice it's missing." And honestly, when I saw this on video, I felt my whole world collapsing inside of me. But you know what? I didn't make a scene right away. Honestly, I was in shock, and for some reason, I was hoping that he would confess on his own or at least give a refund, but that didn't happen. Well, a couple weeks later, he ended up getting fired. And as far as I understood, it was because of being late and constant conflicts at work. That evening, he came home very angry. He started complaining about what a jerk his boss was, and then asked me for money until next month. And that's when I just finally snapped at him. I hadn't planned on having a conversation that day at all, but after everything this weirdo put me through and him asking for money yet again, it was seriously too much for me, so I went ahead and I showed him the video. Now, at first he denied it, and then he said he hadn't stolen anything, but instead apparently he borrowed it and planned on returning it. And then he started accusing me of being crazy for filming him without permission. It was here that I told him to pack his things and to leave right now. In the end, he left to stay with some acquaintances from work, and overall, some of my friends say that I did the right thing, but others think that I could have given him at least a week after him getting fired, give him some kind of time to get his feet back underneath him. And now I honestly am really not sure if I made a mistake or not, because yes, he lied to my face for months, but the thought that I kicked him out right after getting fired still lingers in my mind, and at this point, I'm really just not sure what to do. Okay, dude, if I had footage of my roommate who I was literally helping out in their time of need, blatantly stealing my money and my watch from my room, dude, I would kick them out no matter what. There's no way you're staying with me after that. You're literally giving them a leg up. You're helping them out when it's dude, I've got your back. You just broke up with your girlfriend, life sucks, and you're sleeping in your car. Let me help you out. Stay in my place. And what do? They literally take advantage of that. They're stealing from you. They're bragging about it to some unknown person on the phone. Dude, you better be glad you got that footage of him stealing. Holy crap. And also, you really should be glad that he left without any kind of conflict in that regard, because I'm pretty sure he probably could have claimed squatters' rights or something like that. That's always my nightmare, dude. You help someone out, you're hey, you could stay with me temporarily, and then you try to kick him out and they're no, you can't make me leave. I've got rights and I'm gonna stay here for 90 days. Dude, that is a nightmare and I would hate to deal with that. So yeah, your friend hopefully is now your ex-friend, and no, you didn't do anything wrong. Who cares if he got fired? This guy was stealing from you. He's a giant mess and he absolutely has no business staying in your place any longer. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. My friend set me up to go out with another friend of hers, but I'm starting to think that maybe it's a prank, and I'm honestly not sure what to do here, and I'm kind of lost. Here's what's going on. Okay, about a month and a half ago, my friend, who I will call Sarah, set me up with a close friend of hers, who I will call Anna. Sarah and I have known each other since middle school, and we now go to the same college, but Anna studies somewhere else. Sarah told me that her friend had been having a really rough time with dating apps and guys in general, and she thought we'd vibe well because of our personalities, and wanted her to not deal with these scumbag guys anymore. My friend gave me Anna's Instagram and gave her mine, just so we could see if we liked how each other looked and then DM each other to check out if we vibed or not. I thought she was super pretty, and I could sense her personality was exactly like how my friend described just by DMing her. We set up a first date pretty quickly, and we've been going out or hanging out together once or twice a week for about a month now. Well, about 2 weeks ago, she gave me her actual phone number after a date because she wanted to be able to call and FaceTime me if she felt like it. After I got her number, Anna's TikTok came up as somebody I might know while I was scrolling on the app about a week ago. And to be completely honest, the first time it came up, I was curious and I wanted to check out her TikTok account, but I decided not to since she would have found out that I had seen it. But I did think it was kind of weird that she gave me her Instagram and her number, but not her TikTok account. Anyways, this Friday, her account came up on my TikTok again, and I decided to turn off my profile views and just check out her account without her finding out. And honestly, I was surprised because she posts a lot on TikTok compared to her Instagram. She has like maybe 30 to 40 posts in total on her Instagram, but her TikTok had multiple posts every single day. And it's not like she's an influencer with like a crazy amount of followers or anything like that, but most of her TikToks did get a decent amount of views and engagement. Now, some of the TikToks were just her lip syncing and looking pretty, and some of them were her doing makeup and just talking to the camera. And I thought it was pretty cute, and I watched I don't know how many videos of her until I reached one that really made me think, wait a second, what's going on here? It was a video of her lip syncing to a song that said something about a short munchkin or something like that, and she had it captioned saying, "When you're going on a date and his height starts with 5. I then checked the date, and it was literally the night we had our second date. She was wearing the same dress in the TikTok that she did on our date. So she literally recorded it right before our date, and that just made it even worse for me. At first, I was just like, well, why even go out with me if she didn't even find me attractive? Maybe my friend pushed her into it because my friend can be a bit pushy sometimes, especially when she gets an idea in her head. But still, she could have said something about our first couple of dates. Then I thought about, well, wait a second, maybe I'm being set up. To be honest, my friend and I have known each other since middle school, but we haven't always been friends. We only became friends during college when we recognized each other from school, but I still thought that I could trust her, I guess. She was definitely one of the popular ones in middle school and high school, but I never thought she was the type to pull mean pranks. Anyways, I texted Anna that we need to cancel our date for this Saturday. I lied to her and just said that my brother had like an emergency and had asked me to babysit my nephew the whole day. We didn't text or call on Saturday, and I ignored her text messages on Sunday. I did accept her FaceTime, but I told her that I needed to go to bed, and I ended it quickly. I'm honestly just kind of wondering how to proceed here. Do I bring up the TikTok and ask her about it? Or do I just end things with her and cut my friend off too? Because I'm leaning towards this being like a prank more than anything. Like, I can't think of any other reason why someone would post such a TikTok about a guy you're going on a date with, unless you really thought of him as a joke. What should I do? Okay, in my opinion, it kind of seems like you're jumping to some weird conclusions here that aren't really there. Like, I totally understand the TikTok being a little sketchy, and you're like, wait, was she talking about me? And sure, she might have been, but it seems like she likes you. Like, I don't know, a prank usually doesn't go on for a few weeks. Usually there's some kind of like payoff almost immediately because who would want to keep it up for that long? So I don't know, the call is yours. Like, if you feel like you're being messed with and that people are trolling you, then sure, do whatever you want. But if it really is that big of a deal, then maybe like, I don't know, break it off and not go out with her anymore. But from my point of view, it kind of seems like this is not that big of a deal, and maybe you're blowing this up into something that it's not. Because from the sounds of it, it seems like the two of you are gelling really well. And not to mention the fact that there's nothing that would really indicate that this is a prank. I think if anything, you might want to just give this a little bit longer of a try. My boyfriend is constantly breaking or damaging my things all the time, just knocking things over in general and just overall being really clumsy. And even though he's aware of this and even though he knows it bothers me, he still refuses to change his behavior to make sure that my stuff doesn't get damaged. And at this point, after so long of dating him and dealing with this, I honestly just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I've been poor for most of my life. And when I've had the chance to buy something nice, for starters, it's something that I absolutely love. And secondly, it's something that I absolutely take care of because I know I can't replace it. Over the years, I've curated a small but very important selection of things that I love, and even throughout many moves, I've always kept everything in perfect condition. Well, my partner I've been with for 3 years and live with is the complete opposite. He doesn't really take care of his things. He's like a bull in a china shop. He's impulsive and will run out of the room to get something, not really looking where he's going, or even really paying attention to see if there's anything in his way. He is constantly knocking things over or just breaking things in general. He started staying at my house the January before last. No matter how many times I asked him to be careful, he was still knocking things over or spilling things. I would tell him if he just took 1 second to think about what he was doing or look where he was going, things like that wouldn't keep happening. But he would just get mad and insist that he was always careful and always paying attention. He eventually just started denying that he did these things, and one time he even blamed it on my rescue pigeon who can't fly and who never even left my second bedroom. If he did something and denied it, I would start asking him if it was the ghost in the house, and he would then just get furious with me. I tried really hard to move my things out of his way, but I can't move everything, and even with my stuff out of the way, things were still getting messed up. Yesterday, he knocked a plant over and didn't tell me about it. He also set an extra large cup of Gatorade on the bed that fell off and exploded literally everywhere. I was in the room but wasn't looking when it happened, but I asked him if he had set it on the bed and he denied it multiple times. Finally, he said that he had set it on the bed and it just tumbled off. So many of my things have been broken or damaged because of him. And sometimes when he breaks things, he offers to fix them and tells me even if they're messed up, they still work. But I tell him that if I wanted my things broken, I would have done it myself. And that I don't want broken things. I want my things in perfect condition. So this morning, when I went out to the kitchen and found my gorgeous vintage terracotta fruit bowl was missing, I immediately just knew that he broke it. I then texted him and he told me, well, I already found it broken, saying that the pieces that broke off broke cleanly, with him adding in that he could try and fix it for me. And honestly, at this, I lost my ever-loving mind. I picked up the bowl and I smashed it on the floor and I took a picture and I told him that he could fix this. Now, after what happened today, I genuinely want to break up with him. And I really need to ask, like, is this reasonable? He is clumsy, but this is not just clumsiness. This is complete and total disrespect to my things. Is there any other way I can try to talk to him to get him to understand how important it is for me to keep my things nice? Because right now, I really just don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, I don't think you're the jerk at all. This is completely reasonable. I completely understand where you're coming from, and this really does make sense. Like, your boyfriend simply does not care about your stuff. He's being careless. He knows he's being careless, but he still just doesn't care. He says, well, whatever. I mean, it's fine. I can fix it. But it's like, dude, how about you just be careful around it instead of trying to fix it? Like, I don't know. Maybe that's like the more reasonable thing to do. Preventing the thing from breaking makes way more sense in my mind than being like, oh, don't worry. I'll just break it and deal with it later. Like, that's stupid. That really is stupid and so annoying. So yeah, if I was in your shoes, I definitely would break up with this person and be like, I gotta find somebody else. This is not working. Especially when he's so flippant and just really acting like he just doesn't care. And the thing is, he knows that you grew up poor. He knows these items mean a lot to you and you take care of them. Like, I imagine you literally dust them and make sure they're in the right spot and you're like really enjoying having them in your life. And he's just walking around just being like, whatever, I'm just gonna break it. Like, dude, absolutely not. You can find better than this. You don't need this kind of crap in your life, especially from someone who literally just doesn't care. Today, I experienced one of the worst brunch services I've ever had in my entire life, as I had to be a bartender for a bride and groom and their entire wedding party, who literally were straight out of like the fifth circle of Hades. It was quite literally one of the worst experiences of my life, and honestly, I'm still reeling from it. Here's what happened. For a bit of context, when I was in college, I worked as a server and bartender at the fine dining restaurant in a very, very fancy hotel next to my school. I actually really liked the job, especially as a bartender. One of the things the hotel was known for was a very expensive Sunday champagne brunch. It was technically a buffet, but incredible. Pretty much everything you could ever want. It was awful as a server, like there's lots of work for little to no tip, since people felt like they were getting their own food, despite the server pouring coffee and pouring champagne and clearing the plates, etc. But you know what? I liked it as a bartender, because I mainly just opened champagne bottles and made an a la carte Bloody Mary once in a while, and secondly, we got to eat the actual food after the buffet closed. But this story is about the worst brunch ever, because trust me, this one was terrible. So anyways, the hotel also did weddings. It had a huge ballroom, and there was a wedding there where something with the food was totally wrong. I never got the full details, but all I know is that as an apology, the hotel offered to comp every single person who was staying at the hotel for the wedding, who would then come to the brunch buffet. And we are literally talking 50 people. We got a briefing about it in the morning, and then they descended. 50 angry people mad about the wedding, including both sets of parents, the whole bridal party, people who had flown in from out of town, plus the bride and groom. And my God, the bride was pissed. So pissed off that it seemed like she told everyone to be as awful as possible. People were spilling things on purpose, snapping their fingers, taking huge plates of food and then insisting it tasted terrible and that it needed to be taken away, only to then go back and get some more, touching all sorts of food they weren't going to eat, which probably bothered me the most because I was broke and planning to eat afterwards. I mean, this was absolute abject chaos. Plus, they were all ranting at us about the wedding and how our hotel sucked. Meanwhile, we're just a bunch of college kids working our way through school, and we had nothing to do with the wedding at all. Now, the worst part about it for me is that the bride insisted that we should bring fresh bottles of champagne over to her table. We didn't normally do that, by the way. I would open them and put them in standing buckets around the room for the servers to use, and that was it. But considering the situation, we went ahead and did it. So we went over to her, we opened one up, and guess what? She grabbed it out of my hands and poured it all over the floor. It then got on my shoes, you know, my only pair of black shoes for work, and all over the carpet. But despite all of this, they still didn't kick her out. So I don't know what they did wrong at the wedding, but it must have been a big deal because this bride was pissed and everybody was a nightmare to deal with. Oh man, this is one of those situations where I would probably gladly quit my job and go do anything else. Like, holy crap, no thank you, I don't want to deal with that. It's so funny too, because like, dude, you didn't do anything to this wedding. You're not the reason any of this blew up in their face. Like, you have nothing to do with it. You're doing your best just to like accommodate them at the last second. And then they go around and practically destroy the place as revenge to the hotel. It's like, dude, the people who are going to clean it up are not the people that messed up. Like, you're literally just making a janitor and like the serving staff like miserable for no reason. And it's like, dude, we didn't book any of this for you. We didn't plan any of the food out. We are literally hourly, dude. We show up and get a paycheck and spend most of that on drinking, especially if you're in college. Like, good Lord, what a piece of crap. I also don't think I could keep my customer service face going, like if someone poured champagne all over my shoes, because I would definitely give them a piece of my mind. Like, that is where the line is. So yeah, this sounds like a nightmare. It also sounds like a crappy place to work, because if this happened for even a second, as the manager, I would be like, you need to leave now. Like, I don't care if we're comping your meal or not. You're not going to act like this and expect to get away with it. Because this seriously was some unfair treatment that literally had nothing to do with you. Today, I messed up by snapping at my friend after I finally connected the dots to basically find out that she's been taking over everything about my life, as she's literally copying everything I do in my life to an extent that is really exhausting and starting to bother me. Because after blowing up at her, I honestly feel really stupid and I just don't know what to do. Here's basically how it happened. I'm a 23-year-old female who's been friends with this woman who I will call Rachel, who literally copies everything that I do. And trust me, it sounds weird to type this out because I've been in denial about this situation for a little over 3 years. I met Rachel through mutual friends in college. We went on little trips here and there, and we honestly got along okay. But in present day, it's honestly hard for me to look back and not see her taking notes every time we were with each other. Her copying me started with random things, like asking where I got my clothes from, where I got my jewelry, my perfume, my furniture, etc. And this was not all at once, but slowly I started to realize she was becoming more and more interested with the things that I'm doing. Fast forward to present day, and she's posting the exact same things as me on social media, which is like right after I post my stuff. And she'll say things like, wow, original poster, I was about to use that same caption and the same photos from my post, but now I can't post it anymore. Or she'll say to me, oh, I was on a blank website and you bought the dress that I wanted, but I have never discussed buying things to her. Now, I am leaving a few things out for privacy reasons, but just imagine a friend looking at your location, asking where you are, taking up your hobbies that are extremely unique to you, and then copying your exact posts. For example, bird watching. I go bird watching twice a week with a local group from a nursing home that my grandmother, who has Alzheimer's, is at, and this has become one of my favorite hobbies. My grandma doesn't remember me, but it's a way that I try to make that connection with her weekly. We live in Texas, so the birding community varies depending on where you live. And my God, the only reason Rachel knows that I do this is because we have a mutual friend who knows my birding schedule. I don't post or take pictures about this hobby of mine on social media for privacy of the residents of the home. So today, as I pulled into the parking lot of the homes, I saw Rachel's car and her outside of it taking what looks like a photo of the location and some videos for content. Now, I really hate being possessive about things, but this is the one thing that I do that brings me complete peace. So when I saw her, I tried to keep it low key, but I couldn't help myself. I walked directly towards her and I said, "What are you doing here?" And she just looked me dead in the face and said, "Oh, hi there. I'm so glad to hear you decided to start bird watching too." I was honestly so fed up with it. So I looked back at her and I said, "What in the world is your problem? Hey, let's take another picture, but this time I shoved the camera so far up your rear end it might find your brain." And after I said this, I walked away. And you know what? She had this look in her eyes like she was almost satisfied that I reacted so poorly. I talked to my friends and family that are not connected to any of this because, one, I feel like a jerk for what I said, but after 3 years of what has been going on, I have had enough of pretending to be flattered by this. And secondly, I am so embarrassed at the things I said because honestly, it makes no sense. When I tell people the details of the story, they usually say stuff like, "Oh, copying is the highest form of flattery. She might just be in love with you. It's time to stop thinking things are all about you." Or they'll finally get to the point of saying, "This is really not okay and you need to cut off contact completely." I feel like such a jerk for reacting the way that I did, but I can't tell if my actions were justified at all. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Like, did I mess up in some way? Because I don't know what to do. Dude, your friend Rachel is a complete psychopath. This is not normal behavior. You mean to tell me that she found out about this private hobby that you have and suddenly shows up and says, "Oh, hi there. I'm so surprised that you're bird watching as well." Like, dude, that's not normal behavior, dude. I don't care who you are. Like, that is creepy and weird. It's almost like she's trying to replace you in your own life. She's hijacking all of your interests and your hobbies just to try and, like, I don't know, take away from them in a way. Like, it really feels like she's invading your space on purpose just to get a rise out of you. And if that really is the case, like she's doing this on purpose, then my God, I don't know why you're still dealing with her. I would cut her off and be like, "You are no friend of mine. I want nothing to do with you. Get a life and leave me alone." So like in that extent, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think you reacted exactly the way you should have because clearly she was finding joy out of this. She sat there and smiled and smirked and was like happy about it almost. And it's like, bro, what are we talking about? That is so weird. It's incredibly strange for anyone to find joy out of this and not have something wrong with them. Like honestly. So yeah, this is not a friend. This is no one that you want to spend time with. And this is also someone that I would never tell anything about my personal life ever again because they clearly are in competition with you and they want to like take over your life and all of your interests and pretty much everything you do. And that is incredibly weird and just not something I would ever want to be a part of. My mom's entitled friend demands that I open up one of my collector Barbie dolls and give it to her granddaughter to play with, as this lady literally broke into my room and started rummaging through it without asking or even telling anybody first when she came over to visit. And now I'm super paranoid that she might come back and try it again. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I moved out of my parents' house last year. My parents have kept my childhood bedroom as it is, with all of my old toys, belongings, my clothing, etc., because I go home to visit most weekends and I help out around the house. This includes some collector edition Barbies and dolls that my dad bought for me when I was younger. I keep them in boxes stored on a high shelf. There's about 10 dolls in total, some of which are collector's items now because of their age and condition. I haven't thought about selling them because I just like keeping things my dad bought for me. I guess I have an attachment to them because he worked in the United States while we lived in Canada without him, and toys were given when he visited us. This past weekend, I was visiting my mom and she brought some of her friends over. One particular entitled friend, who we will call Jane, brought with her 5-year-old granddaughter. I told my mom not to let the child up in my room after having a bad experience with kids taking my belongings and then breaking them. Now, I stayed downstairs and worked in a room, but eventually, I heard Jane taking the granddaughter upstairs. I then heard them opening doors and talking, but even still, I didn't go upstairs until I heard them say something about dolls. I then went upstairs and I asked them both to leave my room, but at this point, Jane was already in my closet pointing at the dolls. And of course, they pointed to the boxes of Barbies. She pulled one off, showed it to her granddaughter and told me she wanted to play with it. Well, when I told her, no, it's in the box for a reason, she seemed irritated at me and handed the box back to me. She then left my room and the child started crying, saying she wanted to play with the dolls. I then just went through my things and I found some of the dolls that I had opened as a kid and played with, and I offered them to her downstairs, but she just kept insisting on the princess doll. They didn't go back upstairs, but it really left me anxious now about my room. My mom is telling me to put a lock on my door because Jane visits often, and she tends to just wander around sometimes. But I'm just baffled that she would go into someone's house and think it's okay to touch their stuff. I'm from a Southeast Asian background, by the way, and this tends to be the attitude of some older women. They don't understand collectible culture and sentimentality to gifts. They think they're able to do whatever they want and open whatever they want. And this entire experience left me very frustrated, and I just don't know what to do. Oh man, dude, as someone who has collectibles of this nature, I would lose my mind. Like seriously, they really think they could just go into my room and break open stuff that is absolutely none of their business? I'm sure those Barbies probably were not that expensive, or maybe they were. Maybe they were like some serious collectibles. But in my opinion, the point still stands. Because I 100% agree with the original poster. You can't just go into someone's house and be like, oh, let me wander around and open up boxes that are none of my business. Now, the original poster updated and said they installed a lock this morning on the bedroom door, and they said that their mom is going to warn her friend not to go into that room in the future. They've also explained that they live in a small condo, so they don't have enough room to bring all their belongings with them to their place. So I think that's a good solution overall, because Jane sounds like an incredibly toxic and annoying person to deal with, and I would be very pissed off if I came back to my parents' house and I found all my stuff broken into, if not stolen outright. That would make me go crazy on this lady, but hopefully the lock on this door will keep that from happening. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled toxic landlord decides to evict a talented artist all because she made murals on every single wall of the house she was renting, saying that they wanted to live in this artistic house while getting rid of the person who created it. So my neighbor and I got some petty revenge by quite literally scraping all the art off the wall, leaving these people with absolutely nothing when they moved in. Here's what happened. Okay, so there was this house in our area that was well known for having really cool murals inside done by the previous tenant. The outside was pretty tame. She has a pre-built facade to make the house look like a cottage, but inside it was all hand-done murals of Disney movies and fairy tales. The lady was an art teacher when she was younger, and later she started one of those paint with wine type businesses, which she did really well, before fully retiring to just doing paint commissions and furniture decorating. She's always been nice to everyone, even when I've been a bit of a jerk to her when she complained about the truck being loud or speeding, because in the end we worked that out and we had been friends ever since then. She had an agreement with the original landlord about the art, basically stating that since it wasn't outside, it wasn't going to be a problem. She's been living in that house since like the mid-1980s with promises of getting the house in time. Unfortunately, he passed before anything was signed and legitimized, and his kids ended up taking over. Now, one of the sons visited the house to inspect it with his daughter, and apparently they fell in love with it, and they wanted the art house for his daughter. Now, my neighbor didn't have a lease, which made the fight harder, and they used the art on the walls as an excuse to kick her out. She was devastated, but she was able to buy a property that fits her needs at the last minute in another state that had a full art studio area on the first floor. She originally wanted to leave the house as is without the cottage-looking front, but my friend offered to restore the house to Rebecca's standards for free, since he needed to figure out how to use powered paint sprayers anyways. He also had a friend that did landscaping to help her with the front of the house, and overall she agreed, and we moved all of her furniture out to storage units, and my friend let her stay in his guest house free of charge if she did a mural on the living room wall, and she basically had that house cleaned out in a week. On the second week, they buffed all the walls with sanders. All of the murals from the front to the back were gone. It literally just looked like blotches of color. And my friend, being the ever diligent painter that he is, masked anything that wasn't paint and basically sprayed primer everywhere with his new toy sprayer. And trust me, this thing was pretty awesome. You could spray a whole wall in like 4 passes. After the paint dried, he used his Rebecca collection of colors to essentially kill the character of the house. And Rebecca condition is basically what we call flipper houses, as it's always the same stupid colors. There's white with grays all over the house, and the crappy dark tone Perigo flooring. The flooring were tiles, so we left it alone, but the walls were white semi-gloss. The wood paneling walls, the trim, the switch covers, the outlet covers, the counters, and the cabinets were all sprayed in the most depressing shade of gray. The house literally looked dead inside when I went in to check it out, and it was seriously super weird not seeing all the murals. The front of the house was the last project she agreed to, as she gave his landscaping friend the bushes in exchange for the labor removing the cottage facade without breaking it, and the landscaper basically just ripped everything out out and just dump gravel and sand with a boulder for decoration. This weekend, I went to fix some problems at an old neighbor's house, and I noticed the house was still empty, and I asked the neighbor if he had seen anyone move in. He said earlier in the week there was some U-Hauls there, but none of them were unloaded, and that was the last time they remember seeing anyone there. And I really hope that daughter was in for a surprise when she saw that this house got turned into a basic nightmarescape that was incredibly dull. Oh man, this is really the way to do it, man. Everyone in the comment section is saying this, and I agree. If you're gonna kick me out all because you want my art, then guess what? The art goes with me. I'm gonna scrape that off the wall so you have none of it. Because seriously, what were they really expecting? Did they really think like, oh yeah, we could just evict them and then enjoy all this art for free? Like, dude, screw that. These people suck. They don't deserve to have this kind of like artwork for them to enjoy while also kicking out the person who literally did it. Like, what a bunch of scumbags. Like, seriously. So good for you and this neighbor for getting this done, because honestly, these landlords absolutely deserve to get shut down. Am I the jerk for refusing to let my mom wear white to my wedding, even though she claims it's her last chance to feel beautiful? Because right now I feel very disrespected and I really am not sure what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I just turned 23 and I'm getting married in October. My mom and I have always had what I would refer to as a rocky relationship, especially since I got engaged. She's been oddly competitive, commenting on my body, comparing our rings, like we're in like some kind of competition, saying things like, this day is as much about me as it is about you. And I honestly thought she was joking until she showed me the dress that she bought, a white floor-length gown that looks exactly like a bridal dress. And you know what? I told her flat out, she cannot wear that because in my opinion, it doesn't match the occasion. When I said this, she got quiet and then burst into tears. She said this was an opportunity to feel beautiful before getting old, and that I'm selfish for not letting her have this one thing. I felt really bad about this, so I also offered to go shopping with her to find something elegant and more appropriate. And then all of a sudden her countenance changed, and she told me that I was controlling and ungrateful. What gave me peace though was that my fiance backed me up, as did my maid of honor. And now my mom is saying she's not going to come to the wedding, and my aunt says that I should just let her have this to avoid the drama. Now, I don't think I'm wrong for drawing a line here, but now part of me is wondering if I'm the jerk, because honestly, I don't know what to do. Dude, your mom is crazy. There is no way that this is appropriate. I guarantee you, the second she comes in there with that white dress on, she's gonna hijack your wedding and ruin your moment, because that's all she's trying to do. She's been competitive about your ring size and how your body looks, and just literally trying to take this moment away from you. So no, you're not the jerk for putting a line in the sand, because in my opinion, if she did decide to not show up, that probably would be for the best. Am I the jerk for leaving a bachelorette party early, all because it got way too expensive way too fast? Because right now I don't know what to do, and I'm honestly not sure if I'm in the wrong. Here's what's going on. I'm a 28-year-old female and I went on a bachelorette for the weekend. Prior to the trip, I let the group chat know that I'm on a budget and I need to know the expenses in advance before I can agree. And we all agreed on around $500, which I thought was doable. Before getting there, we paid for the hotel and we ride around since we were drinking, which was in total $300. We split it to where the bride wouldn't pay for these, which I was completely fine with. Then when I arrived, we had our dinner planned and we went to a fancy restaurant. I ordered the cheapest meal, and then one of the girls took the bill and paid for it. Then fast forward in the following day, I asked how much the tip was to pay my portion, and the girl responded by saying, oh, just split the check. But I said no, my meal was nothing compared to theirs. They then expected us to pay for the bride for everything she's ordered the entire trip, all while she's getting the most expensive meals and drinks the entire time. They then said to me, well, why would you come here and not pay for everything for her? And don't get me wrong, I understand that you pay for certain things for the bride, but I really wasn't expecting to pay for her entire trip. I mean, other bachelorettes I've been on didn't do that. However, if they would have just told me in advance, I could have planned, because literally everybody knew except for me. So I told the bride that the girls were rude and that I can't afford to stay, and I'm honestly just completely uncomfortable. She then said it was fine and she appreciated my time. Now keep in mind, I wasn't invited to the wedding because she couldn't afford it, but I was also then uninvited to the bridal shower and as a friend. So am I the jerk for leaving early all because things were just way too expensive? Because right now I feel like I messed up and I just don't know if I'm in the wrong. Okay, let's rewind real quick because I think there's a bigger issue here. And someone in the comment section actually pointed this out and it kind of made me realize, wait a second. You're telling me you were invited to the bachelorette party, but you're still not invited to the wedding or the wedding shower? Dude, what's going on right now? Because it seems to me that these are not your friends, but instead they're like, oh, we can get some money out of her. If we invite enough people to this, it won't be as expensive. Or they could do exactly what they did and be like, yeah, let's just make her pay for everything. Dude, this is some crazy stuff going on on right now. So to that extent, no, you are not the jerk here. These people all really suck. You were clearly only invited to like cut expenses, and even then, they still didn't give you an honest accounting of how much everything was going to cost. So yeah, these people suck, and I don't think these are your friends in the first place, because no friend of mine would ever treat me like this, because this whole situation is incredibly toxic. Am I the jerk for refusing to take my shoes off in my friend's house, all because I had a medical condition that would not allow me to do so? Because this caused his wife to cancel our Dungeons and Dragons session for everybody in the house, and now I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong or if I was justified in my actions. Here's what happened. I'm a 38-year-old male, and I was invited to a Dungeons and Dragons session with 4 other people at my friend's house who we will call Alex. When I got there, his wife answered the door and immediately asked me to take my shoes off because they have a strict no shoes policy due to them having a crawling baby. Well, I then explained to them that I have a medical condition that essentially makes the skin on my feet extremely fragile. Even mild friction or pressure can cause painful blisters and tears, so I have to wear supportive shoes with cushioned orthopedic insoles at all times, even indoors. Walking barefoot or just in socks causes me pain and can lead to bleeding. Well, she suggested I put grocery bags or socks over my shoes, but I told her that that's unsafe for walking and honestly just really insulting. She then said that she can't compromise her baby's health for my comfort, and when Alex came to the door, he told me to just deal with it for a couple of hours, or I wasn't welcome inside. I then told him I wasn't going to risk injuring myself over a Dungeons and Dragons session, and if my shoes were that big of an issue, then I would just respectfully leave. As I walked back to my car, I overheard his wife telling the other guests that were already there that the night was off because I made a huge scene at the door. And then later, I got a group text from Alex saying that he was canceling Dungeons and Dragons night because apparently it's not fair to expect everyone else to pretend nothing happened. Some of my mutual friends say that I overreacted and I could have just sucked it up, while others think that Alex and his wife were ridiculous for ruining everyone else's plans just because I decided not to stay. So am I the jerk here? Because right now I'm not sure if I did anything wrong. Okay, honestly, there is no reason why the original poster couldn't cover their shoes with bags. Like seriously, that is a reasonable solution. You literally made this a big deal by being like, my comfort and safety is more important than this, I'm gonna leave. Like they didn't ruin the night, you did. So for you to be like, oh wow, look at the way they're handling this, they ruined everybody else's plans. But it's like, dude, the lack of self-awareness is so insane in my opinion, because if anybody ruined plans for the night, it absolutely was you. So yes, I think the original poster was a jerk, because putting bags over your shoes would have been an easy solution that even a toddler could have handled. Am I the jerk for saying it's inappropriate that my brother's girlfriend keeps wearing my clothes around the house? Because at this point, she's just straight up stealing from me whenever she wants. And despite complaining about it, literally no one in my house sees things the way that I do, leaving me in a situation where truly I really just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I'm a 17-year-old female and I live at home with my mom and my brother. My brother's 23 and his girlfriend is also 23, and she's been staying over more often, like multiple nights a week. I'm not judging that part too much. She is great to be around, but what's really bothering me is that she keeps wearing my clothes. The first few times it was with permission, and I would agree and just lend her my stuff, but now I'll just wake up and see her walking around the kitchen wearing one of my shirts like it's normal. I mean, I never said she could freely take anything. When I brought it up to my brother, he said it'd be a hassle to make her pack more stuff, and that it's just a nice way to make her feel more welcomed and at home, and that it would be even more inappropriate for her to wear his clothing around the house. But it's like, okay, how is that my problem? I'm not her closet, and I don't know why she doesn't just wear my mom's stuff too. I told him it made me uncomfortable, especially because there's something intimate about her wearing my stuff, and it reminds me that she's sleeping in his bed, and I don't want that picture in my head, dude. Honestly, it just feels kinda gross. Our mom is staying out of it, but she didn't disagree with me. But I don't know if she sees it the same way I do or just doesn't care. And for the record, yes, I have a lock on my door, but not all of my clothing are in my closet. All of the overflow clothing are just sometimes folded in the laundry room, which is accessible to anyone. I know I'm gonna have to talk directly to her soon, but I just hate feeling like I'm gonna start some drama, all because nobody else in the house sees my issue. Because right now I really don't know what to do. Oh yeah, this is completely inappropriate. This is such a double standard, it's not even funny. How is it okay for her to wear your clothing, but not for her to wear his clothing? Or maybe your mom's clothing or something like that. She's clearly like poaching stuff off of you and being like, oh, I'll wear this one today. And I'm right there with the original poster. I would be very uncomfortable with this and I'd be like, no, this is not happening, I don't like this. Especially with the mental image image of them sleeping together wearing your clothing. Like, that really is creepy. So no, you're not the jerk here, and I don't blame you for being upset. And honestly, it is so annoying that your mom and your brother simply can't see where you're coming from, because all of this makes sense and this really should not be your problem. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own stories, because we would love to hear them. Am I the jerk for telling my best friend that I can't be her maid of honor if she insists on a child-free wedding but still expects me to leave my newborn baby for 3 days? Because right now she is literally making me choose between her or my baby, and I'm honestly feeling torn and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So me and my best friend, who I will call Sarah, have been close forever. She asked me to be her maid of honor for her wedding next year, and I was super excited and I said yes right away. But a few weeks ago, she said the whole wedding was gonna be child-free, like no kids at all, including babies. And that's kind of a problem because I'm due to have my first baby 2 months before the wedding. I talked to her gently and I let her know I'd love to be there for her, but I can't leave a newborn for 3 whole days. The wedding weekend includes travel, rehearsal dinner, bachelorette stuff, the whole thing. I told her I'd be breastfeeding and it just wouldn't be possible to leave my baby that long. She then got really cold after that, said I was making it about me and not caring about her biggest day. Then she told me I need to pick between my baby and her wedding. I honestly don't think I'm being unreasonable, but now I'm feeling torn. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because I really am not sure if I'm making a mistake. Okay, I want to start off by saying that post on the Am I the Jerk subreddit literally reached over 1 million people. So if you want your story seen, we would absolutely love to read it over there, because we check those stories out all the time. And this one just so happened to be one of the top ones this week. And honestly, this story blows my mind, because holy crap, Sarah is a terrible friend in my opinion. Like seriously, they're trying to be like, you need to choose between your baby or me. Because it's like, oh, this is going to be an easy choice. I'm going to pick my baby and give you the peace sign and probably never talk to you again. Because how entitled and selfish can you possibly get? This isn't like a toddler that you could leave with someone. This is a newborn that literally needs constant care. And it's like, hey Sarah, just in case you don't know, that baby probably really should be around the mom. And I bet the mom's probably really wanting to be around that baby. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, because this is, in my opinion, some insane behavior. Am I the jerk for leaving my boyfriend's mom's birthday dinner early after she kept making really awful comments about my job? Here's how it went down. Okay, so my boyfriend and I have been together for almost 2 years. His mom has never really liked me, and it's not exactly a secret. I'm a hairstylist and I rent a chair at a nice salon, and I do well for myself, but every time I see her, she makes these little jokes about how I should find a real career or that I should go back to school while I'm still young. Well, fast forward, and last night was her birthday dinner. We went to a restaurant with his family and I was seated right next to her. Within the first 20 minutes, she made 3 separate comments about my work, including asking me if I still make tips in cash like a waitress. I laughed it off at first, but then she said to me, "Don't worry, you'll figure out what you want to do eventually." And she said this in front of everyone, and they all just kind of awkwardly laughed along with her. I then excused myself to the bathroom and I told my boyfriend I wasn't feeling well. So I went ahead and I left. Now he ended up staying behind because it was his mom's birthday, but later he told me I embarrassed him and made his mom feel bad. But I told him I'm tired of being the punchline and I'm not gonna sit there and smile through it anymore. But now he says I overreacted and I should have just ignored it. But I think he's not ever going to stick up for me, so I had every right to leave. So am I the jerk for leaving early and not wanting to put up with this any longer? Because right now I'm honestly very frustrated and I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong. Okay, this is some stupid behavior because I can't stand when people do this, where they literally will excuse someone who's making these awful comments and then put the onus on you to be like, you need to be the bigger person. You need to sit there and take it because you made my mom feel bad. And it's like, brother, your mom should feel bad. You can't make these comments about someone and then be like, oh wow, they left. Now I feel bad about the crappy things I said. Because you should feel bad about saying them before you say it, dude. Like some basic social skills would tell you that. Like, what's going on right now? And what's the deal with your boyfriend not sticking up for you? If that was my mom saying those things about my girlfriend, you better believe I'm gonna speak up and be like, wait a second, don't say that about her, that's mean. Because seriously, there is nothing wrong with being a hairstylist. If that's how you make a living, then fantastic. There's nothing wrong with that. So for his mom to sit there and be like, oh, you need a real job. You need to go back to school while you're still young. Like, that's super disrespectful and so dismissive of the original poster. Like, does he not care about your feelings at all? Like, dude, what's wrong with this guy? So in my opinion, this is not only a big red flag about your boyfriend, but also this is absolutely not your fault. Because if this guy's not willing to stand up for you now, then I seriously doubt he ever will in the future, which is something you do not deserve in the slightest. An entitled realtor trying to sell my neighbor's house demands that I shovel the snow and make sure the house is ready for some showing, while also completely ignoring the fact that I'm 7 months pregnant, forcing me to shut her down the second she shows up to my house trying to complain. Here's what happened. A few few winters ago, my neighbor moved rather suddenly before they sold their house. This left their house empty, and they worried about it looking empty. So they asked if I could go over once in a while and turn on the lights and maybe shovel the walk if we got some snow. You know, make the house look lived in. Now, I had no problem doing this, as they had been great neighbors and I was sad to see them go. That same winter, I had a toddler, a baby, and I was pretty decently pregnant, around 7 months along. My husband also worked a lot out of town, so about 2 weeks out of the month, I was on my own with my brood. So my ex-neighbor must have let their realtor know that I was helping by turning lights on and off, as well as shoveling the front walk if it was needed. The realtor shows up, who I will call Ronnie, and introduces herself and thanks me for my help. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, great. She must have also gotten my number from my ex-neighbor, because pretty soon afterwards she started texting me with requests. This ranged from dusting the house to turning on certain lights, etc., all ahead of showings that were going on. I went over the first time that she asked me, and I dusted a little bit and I turned on the requested lights. But she then texted me later how she was disappointed in how dusty the house was. But I ignored that text message as I didn't really care what she thought. But then these requests became an everyday thing. She basically wanted me to set the house up every time she had a showing. Now, I had kids and I was very pregnant with high risk of pregnancy. I wasn't on bed rest or anything like that, but I had to be careful. So I avoided all of these requests. But the real kicker came when we got some really heavy snow. I'm talking like a good 1.5 feet of heavy, wet snow. We're talking like heart attack snow. Well, Ronnie the realtor texts me at about 8:00 p.m. that she will need the driveway cleared by the next morning. And the absolute audacity was audacious. Now, I responded to that one asking if she was out of her mind. I said to her I was 7 months pregnant and there was no way that was happening. She then asked if my husband could do it, and I said that he was out of town. She then said to me, well, you'll have to figure something out. And it's like, excuse me? I then sent her a laughing face emojis and I went back to what I was doing. Well, lo and behold, Ronnie the realtor was at my door the next morning, knocking on my door like she was the cops. We're talking full-on fist banging. I opened the door in my pajamas whilst using my baby bump to hold up my baby as he nursed. And when I saw her, I just stared at her. She actually had the nerve to say, I thought I told you the driveway needed to be cleared. I have a showing in a half hour. But when she said that, I told her to lose my number and I shut the door in her face. I then called my ex-neighbor and I told her that she had better put a leash on her pet realtor because I was absolutely done with her. When my former neighbor heard about this, she was horrified and promised me that she would take care of it, which thankfully she must have done that because I did not hear from Ronnie the realtor ever again. But I will say it was incredibly satisfying watching her high-stepping through the snow because that literally was not my problem in the slightest. Oh my gosh, dude, this realtor's out of her mind. I completely agree with the original poster. She's literally 7 months pregnant. Like, what was she thinking? Did this realtor really think like, oh yeah, this pregnant woman's gonna handle it? Instead of, oh, I don't know, showing up early and doing it herself? Like, talk about ruining a good thing. This lady's so dumb for doing that. So good for you for standing up for yourself and putting this idiot in their place, because this kind of behavior is completely uncalled for. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for asking my coworker to pay for my parking ticket after she directed me to park somewhere that very obviously was going to get me a ticket? Because right now I'm very upset and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 23-year-old female and I work for a company in a pretty big city. I also have a female coworker who's about my age that I sometimes go out to dinner with because we both enjoy going out to restaurants. For context, I moved to this city for this job and my coworker was born and raised here, so she often introduces me to restaurants that she enjoys. Yesterday, we made plans to go to a restaurant in downtown. I was the one driving us, and as every downtown city is, parking was hard to find. About a block away from the restaurant, there was an area where I could potentially park along the street. There were no signs saying not to park there. However, the lack of cars in this particular area made me feel unsure if we were allowed to park here in the first place. I then suggested that we try to find a spot further from the restaurant, and then with that, we would just walk over. And for reference, both of us are perfectly healthy and we're able to walk over there, so it's not really an issue. When I said this, my coworker protested, saying it would be fine to park there and that nothing would happen, while also saying that she didn't want to walk that far. Well, I protested, but she just kept reminding me that she's from this city, and she said that she would know if you could park there or not. Well, I decided to just park there to avoid an argument. We then go to dinner and walk back to my car, and lo and behold, there's a ticket on my windshield for parking in that zone. Now, needless to say, I was upset, and my coworker responded by saying, well, it's a bummer that the cops checked to see if people were parked there this time. I then got upset and I asked her if she knew that you were not supposed to park there, and she started stuttering and trying to change the conversation. And I knew right then and there that she was just lying. I then confronted her and I asked why she would insist on me parking there when she knew that I could get a ticket for it. And it's here that she admitted that she didn't think anyone would check and see if there was anyone parked there, and that she didn't want to do the walk from further away to the restaurant. I told her that because she put me in this situation, she needed to pay for the ticket. Now my coworker's upset and saying that it's not fair for me to ask her to pay for the parking ticket. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because right now I'm still incredibly frustrated. Okay, honestly, I don't think it's right to pin that on your coworker because it was just kind of like a series of unfortunate events in some ways. Because yeah, she was trying to be helpful and be like, no one ever gets a ticket parking there, you're totally fine. So it was probably really embarrassing and probably a shock to her that like, oh yeah, someone actually got a ticket for once and that person is us. So while I don't think she's innocent, I also don't think she's completely guilty either. This really does sound like a freak accident and I don't think it should solely come from her. She absolutely should help pay for it, but to pay for the whole thing seems a little silly in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. Like, what do you think? Leave a comment down below. Do you think the coworker absolutely should pay the parking ticket? Or do you think there's some nuance here that could be explored? Please leave a comment. We would love to hear what you have to say. My creepy manager says that I should smile more while on the clock. So I decided to take things to the next level by doing so in the creepiest way possible, making my manager seriously regret ever asking me to smile more. Here's what happened. I'm a 21-year-old female and I work part-time at a retail clothing store while I'm finishing college. And this is your typical mall chain. Overpriced basics, weird music, and managers who think the customer is always right, even when the customer is actively shoplifting. One day during my shift, my manager, who we will call Craig, who by the way is in his 40s, always smells of Axe and insecurity, pulled me aside and said, "Hey, I notice you don't smile much. You should really smile more. It makes customers feel welcome." I said to him, "Do you mean be friendlier?" And he said, "No, literally just smile more. Even when no one's talking to you, just keep on smiling." So I said to myself, okay, Craig, you want smiles? You got it. For the rest of my shift and every shift after that, I smiled. But not like normal smiling. I smiled wide with too much teeth. I smiled while folding jeans. I smiled while sweeping. I smiled while telling a Karen we didn't have her size. I smiled at customers until they asked me, "Are you okay?" One guy legit said I looked like I was about to snap. And another guy asked if I was in a cult. A little kid even started crying when I greeted her at the fitting room. Coworkers eventually caught on and they actually joined me in this effort. In fact, we started calling it smile mode. By the end of the week, it looked like a haunted mannequin showroom. Craig then finally told us, "Okay, please tone it down." But that's when I asked him sweetly, while still smiling of course, "Oh, I thought you said to smile more." And as you can probably guess, he didn't ever bring this up ever again. Okay, I gotta be completely honest. It's always the creepy older men going to these 20-year-old women and being like, "You need to smile more." It's like, dude, I don't need to smile more, you need to get out of my space. And I love the way the original poster described this guy as smelling like Axe and insecurity because holy crap, this fits the bill 100%. So I love the fact that the original poster turned this against him because this really was a weird thing to say. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit, so please check out the link in the description if you would like to submit your own stories. We would love to see what you have to say because we check that subreddit all the time and we would love to hear your stories. Let's get started. Am I the jerk for snapping at my coworker when she said that her stress gave her the right to be rude to everybody? Because right now I really think I'm losing my mind and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 26-year-old female and I work at a small cafe. Now my coworker, who I will call Tara for the sake of the story, is usually fine, but lately she's been in a mood, snapping at customers over tiny things, rolling her eyes at other staff members, and letting out big sighs anytime anyone asks her for help. Last week during a slow shift, a regular customer asked for oat milk instead of almond, and Tara responded in a short, almost irritated tone. After the customer left, I asked if she was okay, and that's when she went on about how stressful her life has been lately. Her long bus commute, planning her wedding, and her landlord upping the rent by $50. I listened at first, but then she said something that blew my mind. She said to me, "So yeah, I'm allowed to be rude right now. People should have to deal with it." But that's when I told her flat out that stress doesn't give anyone the right to be nasty, especially not to paying customers or coworkers who are just doing their jobs. She then got defensive and told me that I don't know what real stress is. I then reminded her that when I was her age, and for the record I'm only 1 year older than her, I was working 2 jobs, crammed in this small apartment with 3 roommates, and still had to put on a smile for customers because that's part of the job. I also pointed out that she has paid time off for her wedding, and she's got a fiance who helps with the bills, so she is not completely on her own. As for the commute, I told her I get it, it's tiring, but that is still still no reason to ruin someone else's day just because yours started early. I ended by saying that stress is like coffee grounds. You can use it to make something good, or you can just spill it everywhere and make a mess for everyone else to clean up. So with all that in mind, am I the jerk for telling my coworker that she's being ridiculous right now? Because I'm honestly not sure if I made a mistake. No, your coworker is being so nasty. This is so dumb. Just because you're having a bad day or you've got stress in your life absolutely doesn't give you a license to be a jerk. Like seriously, that's some crazy talk in my opinion. And the fact that she would even try to justify that is really stupid. It's the same kind of person in my opinion who gives off the energy of oh, this is just who I am. If you can't handle my energy, then I'm just not the right person for you. But it's dude, no one can handle your energy. You are literally a basket case and probably the worst person to deal with at work or anywhere for that matter. Because this coworker is totally out of line and I just completely think she's in the wrong. Today at my university, I had the worst meeting with a support counselor I've ever had in my life, forcing me to get some petty revenge by leaving a bad review to them in a way that I'm sure they will never forget. Here's how I did it. Okay, so I'm a student and I had a university support appointment with the most rude, arrogant, insulting, thoughtless, self-absorbed, entitled boomer I have ever encountered in my life. She was condescending, called me an insulting pet name, people who say stuff like, oh, sweetie, just to assert dominance, and she gave me the full mean girl boomer experience while acting like she was God's gift to the earth. She was weirdly aggressively controlling, and she is in a position of significant power over vulnerable students. Clearly, power is what she just loves to wield. Now, I loathe when people misuse their power, especially when old guard figures aren't actually contributing anything useful. No real wisdom, it's just some desire to hold on to their power and control. I tried to politely explain to the team why I was upset, but instead I was gaslighted, institution style. So when the support team sent me a link for feedback, I mirrored the mean girl boomer's exact behavior right back at them. And I am not sorry for a single bit. I made it clear in my response that I was conscious of my rude wording, and that I'm not sorry for it at all. Mean girl boomer also talked over me repeatedly in long-winded soliloquies, so I made sure that my feedback was long-winded as well. And oh boy did I ramble on. I mean, have fun reading that crap. And I've got to say, writing that feedback was so satisfying. It's not something I would do usually because I value integrity and resolution. I mean, I am usually a measured, thoughtful person who likes to be constructive, but this time, I just couldn't resist being petty. If some woman in their 50s or 60s can't get with the program and start supporting and uplifting other women, then I will happily hold up a nice big mirror to them so they can see exactly how they act. Okay, I love this so much because good for you. I've also dealt with university support administration or teachers who are just awful at their job, who literally will sit there and wield this weird power over you and never do anything positive. It is so exhausting to deal with, dude. I totally understand where you're coming from. But I will say the fact that you left feedback is so amazing because guess what? That really does work. Those teachers, especially if they're narcissistic weirdos like this person, you better believe they're gonna read it and be absolutely all over whatever you said. So I think you can probably rest easy knowing that this idiot absolutely read that and probably had a really big temper tantrum over it. Because in my opinion, people like that should probably retire and let other people take over, especially if they're not actually doing anything useful in the job that they're filling. The restaurant I work at has probably the worst kitchen I've ever had to deal with in my life, as they've made way too many mistakes that make my life as a server incredibly frustrating. Because after a series of events recently, I'm honestly reconsidering anything and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I want to start off by saying that today, everything was just so terrible. It wasn't my fault, honestly, it just comes down to the fact that the kitchen was too overwhelmed. There's a lot to say about today, but it's way too much to write down. So to make it as short as possible, our restaurant is badly organized. They hired a lot of new servers, but the kitchen is always understaffed. There were just 3 chefs for the whole big restaurant. They were overwhelmed and couldn't keep up with the orders, especially when the orders had special requests. One couple waited 30 minutes for their food while the table close to them got their food after just 2 minutes maybe? Plus that table arrived much later than them. They got angry and naturally complained, so I told my manager and we contacted the kitchen. When the food was finally ready, it turned out that the meat was totally dry and partially burnt. I've tried to offer 2 free drinks as an excuse, but they refused and just went away without paying for the meat, of course. Another family came in and waited very long. We're talking 40 minutes just for their meal. And so far, I had run to the kitchen twice. The first time, they told me the food would be ready in about 2 minutes, but it never came. I ran up to the kitchen kitchen again just to discover they completely forgot about it, which added another 3 minutes of wait time. The guests started to scream non-stop at this point. No matter what I would try to say, it simply wasn't enough to calm them down. In the end, they received their food, but they also didn't pay for it. They went away without even saying goodbye. Now, I know, it's not actually my fault. I did everything I could have done, and the kitchen also apologized to me at the end of the day, but I still feel guilty and sad anyways. The other clients in the restaurant had to listen to all the screams and complaints. I had to face all those angry guests. It isn't my fault if the food comes out so late, especially if the kitchen forgets about it or if it comes out burnt. I'm so ashamed of today, and I can't stop thinking about how terrible the whole dinner shift has truly been, because this was incredibly obnoxious. Oh man, I've worked in restaurants like that, and yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. It is so annoying to deal with. You're just the waiter or the busboy or the host or whatever, meaning that you've got nothing to do with what the kitchen is or is not doing, so them not doing their job or not doing it right can negatively affect you in a serious way, and that is so frustrating. Like, I'm sorry, there's no excuse for this kind of behavior. Like, I don't know about you, but if I had a kitchen staff that was acting like that, and they literally were not organized, dude, I would do some reorganizing as soon as possible, because this is gonna spread word of mouth, dude. Like, people are gonna talk about this and be like, yeah, that place sucks. I waited almost an hour for a simple meal. Like, no, it should not take that long to get that meal going. Like, seriously, this is so weird. Because I know if I was a customer there, I probably would walk out very angry and very upset. Am I overreacting for moving out after my roommate started charging me to use her kitchen, despite the fact that the kitchen is split between us as we literally share all the spaces in the apartment? Here's what's going on. I'm a 25-year-old female and I've been living with my roommate, who I will call Jess, for about a year. The rent is split evenly and we share all of the spaces in the apartment. Stuff like the kitchen, the living room, the laundry, literally all of this is part of the lease. Well, last month, Jess started dating a guy who is a chef, and ever since that, she's been super possessive about the kitchen. She told me that she doesn't want me messing up the equipment because he cooks professionally, and has been apparently teaching her the right way to use the space. But then last week, she actually sent me a Venmo request for $50, labeled as a fee for using the kitchen after I cooked pasta. I thought it was a joke at first, but she really said she was serious. She said it's only fair since she spends more time cleaning it, and that I don't know how to handle high-quality cookware. I told her that's absurd, and if she keeps this up, I'll find another place to live. She then said I'm overreacting and I'm being petty. But at this point, I've honestly started packing my bags. So seriously, am I in the wrong here? Am I overreacting in any kind of way? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Oh my gosh, this is some crazy talk. Your roommate is not only out of her mind, but the fact that she's trying to be like, oh yeah, it's a kitchen fee. You ruined this area and you don't know how to use high quality cookware. You need to pay me $50 right now. Like, dude, there's no way I would ever pay that money. Are you kidding me right now? Like, she does not own the kitchen, dude. What's going on right now? You guys share that space together. Like, you have every right to cook there just as much as she does. Now, if this is some kind of argument about her being pissed off that you're using her pots and pans or some crap like that, then sure, let's get petty and just get your own stuff from like the dollar store or something like that. But if it really is her trying to be like, oh no, the kitchen is all mine, then yeah, this lady's crazy and I would absolutely start moving out as well. Or at the very least, talk to the landlord and be like, yeah, my roommate's trying to charge me $50 to use the kitchen. Because this is some crazy behavior that I definitely would not want to live with. Am I the jerk for refusing to let my parents move in with me since they literally showed up out of nowhere with bags in hand? Because after I said no, they can't move in, they started guilt-tripping me hard, saying that because they're my parents, I'm somehow required to take them in, despite the fact that they were not good parents to begin with. Here's what's going on. I'm a 30-year-old female and I have a pretty good life right now. I've got a good job, a small apartment, and I'm finally debt-free. My parents, who are both in their 60s, recently sold their house because they wanted to travel, but instead, they spent a huge chunk of money on luxury vacations, a new car, and helping my younger brother with his failed business idea. And now, a year later, they're broke and they can't afford rent. Well, last week, they showed up at my apartment with suitcases in hand, expecting to move in. Now, I was shocked because we never talked about this. I told them I don't have the space as I only have one bedroom, and that they should look for a smaller, affordable place to rent. When I said this, they got offended and started saying things like, we raised you. We sacrifice our dreams so that you can have yours. Family always takes care of each other. If you don't take us in, you're abandoning us in our old age. Now, the problem is, my parents weren't exactly sacrificing for me when I was growing up. They constantly made reckless financial choices, put vacations on credit cards, and even made me take out student loans for my own education while they bought a jet ski. I feel guilty because they are my parents, but I also know living together will be a nightmare. They're messy, they argue constantly, and they have zero boundaries. Well, my brother says that I'm selfish and that it's my turn to give back, but he's not offering his own place place, probably because he knows what a headache it would be. So I need someone to be honest with me because right now I'm so frustrated. Am I the jerk for saying no when my parents expected to move in without asking? What should I do? Dude, there is no way I would ever let anybody move in like that. I don't care if it's my parents or my siblings or anybody, dude. If you want to move in, we gotta talk about that first. We need to set ground rules, we gotta figure out rent. You're not gonna show up and be like, oh, we're moving in, and if you don't let us move in, you're basically abandoning us at our old age. And by the way, they are being super manipulative. They are literally sitting there trying to be like, oh, you need to take care of us because we took care of you. But surprise, surprise, it sounds like they've never been good with money. They've never really taken care of their kids or anybody at all. And now they see their daughter who's clearly got like a good quiet life and they're like, oh yeah, we can disrupt this by getting involved. So no, with all things considered, and yes, I know this is your family, but no, you do not have to take them in if you don't want to. Because if they want a place to live, they can go to your brother's place, no problem. Who, by the way, is just as guilty as them by trying to act like, oh yeah, you're the problem for not saying yes. Making your brother a massive hypocrite, and that honestly is completely unfair. My friend's idiotic father intentionally gives me food poisoning, completely ignoring the fact that if I eat certain foods, I'm gonna have a negative reaction. As he claimed, I was just a picky eater instead of me actually having a problem with it, resulting in one of the weirdest and most toxic situations I've ever been in my entire life. Here's what happened. Okay, I will start by saying this happened when I was 16 years old. Now, I cannot eat red meat, pork, fish, or melons, and this has nothing to do with religion, but really, I get a bad stomach ache from eating those, and with meat, I will just start throwing up violently pretty much straight away. Now, everyone in my family and friend circle knows about this, as that's something that's been happening since I was a toddler. But on that note, I am fine with bird meat and seafood. Now, I have a friend who comes from a very wealthy family, and for the sake of the story, we'll call her Anna, even though that's definitely not her real name. We were celebrating her 15th birthday, and because of this, her dad was having a barbecue over at his new house. Bear in mind, I've known Anna and her family ever since Anna was like 9 years old, and when she was 14, she was practically living with me and my family as we went to the same school and we were into the same hobbies. Plus, her family would also come around for barbecues every other weekend with my family, so they are perfectly aware of what I can and cannot eat. Now, their new house is about an hour-and-a-half drive from my parents' house, as it is located out of the city and it's by the lake. Before the barbecue started, Anna's dad showed the house as he helped to build it, and he was really proud of the golden throne he has in one of the bathrooms. And yes, this is a toilet that is stylized as a golden throne, and I'm not really sure if it was actual gold or not. I mean, I was 16 at the time and I had no idea of the difference. He has specified how we shouldn't use it or play with it, as it costs a lot of money and it is basically his toy. The throne is downstairs and is in the closet bathroom to the outside. There is another one, but it is significantly further away, and you have to go through some other rooms just to get to it. Now, as we were all underage, he was the one cooking the meat for the barbecue. He then put some white meat in front of my plate, which I assume was chicken, since I've only tried pork as a toddler and never had it after my reaction to it. So I have no idea how it tastes or how it looks. But upon tasting it, I did mention that it tasted weird and that the texture was really weird, but I was assuming that it was just chicken or something like that. Halfway through, my stomach starts to hurt like crazy, and I can finally click that something is wrong, as it normally wouldn't react this way to chicken. At the same time, noticing my reaction, the father finally admits that it was pork. I then get up and I start running through the doors as I feel like I'm about to throw up. And of course, I end up in the bathroom with the throne, where I continue to be violently sick. My friend then runs after me, followed by her dad, and her dad is clearly not happy about me destroying his throne. So he's literally starting to tell me off in the process. Now, I of course don't hear him as I'm still really sick. My friend then has a full-on go at her dad, saying that he should not have fed me pork. But her dad tries to brush it off, saying that he thought that I was just being picky, as that's what Anna told him. I then managed to say that I want my parents to pick me up, as my stomach hurts, all before getting into another passionate hug with a golden throne. It took my parents about an hour to get to me, and this entire time I was occupying the bathroom. My mother was furious and was in full-on attack mode on my friend's dad, calling him all sorts of names and saying how dangerous it is, as I might end up in the hospital and will have a few miserable days ahead of me. Now, the dad was trying to say I am fine now, but just before getting into the car, I felt another wave coming, and since I was not expecting it, I threw up all over this guy. My mom laughed, but also turned to Anna and said that she won't feel comfortable with letting me stay with her, or even celebrating anything with Anna's dad around due to what happened, and she also didn't think that I would want to once I'm older. Well, this definitely made Anna upset, as it was her birthday, and so she ended up having a go at her dad as well. Now, I haven't been around their place ever since then, but I did spend a few days in bed with stomach pain and had a doctor's visit just to make sure I'm not totally messed up, with Anna's dad footing the bill for the entire thing. Well, eventually, me and Anna ended up falling apart a few years after this, as she started to feel I was responsible for ruining her her birthday, and even tried to plot some pointless revenge schemes, which was truly incredibly crazy. Okay, I gotta be honest with you, this is so weird all over the place. Not only is your friend a complete idiot for being like, you ruined my birthday on purpose by throwing up all over the place, you know, after my dad intentionally gave you food poisoning. Which, by the way, that's exactly what happened in case anyone's wondering. But also, what in the world is up with this dad? Did he really try to excuse this away by being like, oh, you're just being picky, you're not actually like gonna have problems with this? Because that is crazy. Like, the second anyone says, hey, I'm allergic to this, or even implying like, hey, I can't eat meat, or I can't eat like melons, or whatever it is this original poster can't eat, like the second I hear that, I'm gonna be like, oh, okay, we're never gonna get that near you. I'm gonna cook things separately and make sure I don't like cross-contaminate, and basically do everything I can to make sure they don't have some kind of reaction. What you don't do is what the dad did and be like, oh, you're just being picky, don't worry about it, you'll be fine. But I have to say, the weirdest thing in this story is the fact that this guy has a golden toilet. Like, that's basically what this is. And I honestly have never heard of anybody having a golden toilet and being like, oh, don't touch this is my toy. Like, dude, what are you talking about? Pokemon cards or a Nintendo Switch, that's a toy, not a toilet that you sit on that you painted gold. Like, dude, that is so weird. So there's already like so many red flags in my opinion that it's honestly hard to miss. But on top of that, the fact that anybody in this story is trying to be like, this is your fault, like, that's crazy, and that just doesn't make any sense. So honestly, if Anna wants to try and do like some weird revenge scheme, then seriously, good riddance, because this lady is crazy if she thinks this is your fault in any way, shape, or form. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled Karen literally tries to subpoena me and my husband to court so that we could testify in her frivolous lawsuit, forcing me to go to extreme measures just to show them that no, I'm not willing to help them out with their stupid lawsuit. Here's what happened. To start things off, my husband and I own and operate a small contracting business for drainage work, and the estimates we give clients are always free. We do not have employees and we do all the work ourselves. And when customers call us, this is all information that we give them. Well, earlier this spring, a woman called us who had been referred to us by an acquaintance of ours. She was having some drainage issues that she thought was caused by a neighbor installing a concrete parking area, and we told her we'd be happy to come and take a look and give her an estimate. So we showed up and we spent a lot of time walking around, measuring and planning things out. All the while, she was railing on her neighbors and talking nonstop about this lawsuit that she'd filed against him. She told us her attorney had advised her to get some written quotes on how much it would cost to solve her drainage problems, and I thought to myself, okay, fine. We always provide written quotes on our letterhead. And just as a note, I was limping heavily, having recently broken some bones in my foot. In fact, I mentioned needing to sit down soon because of it, and she asked questions about it. And it's here that I told her I was scheduled for surgery on a certain date to have things fixed up. But anyways, I sent her the quote the next day. Over the next few days, she sent several emails for things that bordered on crazy, where she was basically asking me how much this or that would be. And even though it took me a lot of time and figuring for these extras, I happily obliged, as I always do. Well, fast forward 2 months and it was day 3 after my surgery, and we hadn't heard any more from her since the initial quote. We then got a notification in the mail that my husband needs to come to the post office and pick up a restricted letter from an attorney. He had to take time out from doing absolutely everything around the house and in our business, as I was completely non-weight bearing at this point, just to go pick up that stupid letter. And wouldn't you know it, it was a subpoena and a check for $35. Rather than call and ask us if we would testify about the drainage problems, she had her attorney subpoena us to court for 2 days. And the $35, by the way, was the state-mandated minimum compensation for 2 days in court plus mileage. Now, I was in pain and I was in no mood. I called her up and as politely as I could, I asked her what in the heck was going on. She said she didn't know her attorney was going to subpoena us, but I told her we would effectively have to close our business for 2 days just to honor this subpoena. I also told her that she had subpoenaed the wrong person anyways, since it was me who put the estimates together in the first place. I also said that I literally couldn't sit in court even if I wanted to, because I had to keep my foot elevated, and I couldn't even drive since it was my right foot. But all she said was that I would have to talk to her attorney. So I left a voicemail for the attorney and I sent an email explaining the situation. After a few days of not hearing from the attorney, I called this idiot Karen back and I told her she needs to intervene. But she literally tried to tell me, oh, I have no control over what my attorney does. But I said to her, you absolutely have control over what your attorney does. Afterwards, I sent another email to the attorney telling her that we had nothing to contribute. We had revoked the the estimate, and even if we did have something to contribute, she had subpoenaed the wrong person, and I was physically unable to sit in court for 2 days. Furthermore, asking to close our business and sit in court for 2 days for $35 would be a financial burden. Well, the attorney responded to my email a week later, a few days before the court date, and actually asked when a good time would be to meet with me to go over what I would say in court. It wasn't my proudest moment when I responded because I said to them, "Do you have some kind of reading comprehension problem?" Well, needless to say, she finally released the subpoena after I told her that she really didn't want the jury to hear what I had to say about the ridiculous lawsuit. Also, the neighbor had a counterclaim for defamation, and her client wouldn't shut up about all the nefarious doings of her neighbor while we were there looking at her property. I told her straight up, if opposing counsel asked, I absolutely would be honest about that. Well, out of curiosity, I looked at the court records after the trial date had passed, and of course she had lost her case. And it also made me incredibly happy and also literally smile when I saw that her neighbor had won the counterclaim for defamation. Okay, this is really funny to me because I love the fact that this lady was like, "Oh yeah, I can't do anything about this. I have no control over my attorney. Sorry about that. You gotta handle this." It's like, dude, what are you talking about? You absolutely can handle this. The Karen of the story was out of her mind, dude. What's going on right now? And they don't have their ducks in a row when they literally subpoena the wrong person. Dude, how do you get these two mixed up? But the funniest part for me is the fact that you literally said, "Hey, I will tell the truth if you put me on the stand." And trust me, that truth is not gonna look good for your client. I'm so glad you put your foot down because these people really needed to hear that you were not gonna comply. Because their lawsuit was frivolous and they literally had no chance of ever winning this. My mom literally tanked my credit after she had 27 late payments on a car I co-signed with her. And so now I'm choosing to go no contact and I'm trying to navigate this really weird situation. Here's what's going on. So I never thought I'd be here, but I've decided to go completely no contact with my mom. And I really need help to try and figure out exactly what's going on. Before all of this went down, I had excellent credit. My mom wanted a new car, but couldn't get approved without a $5,000 down payment because her credit was already wrecked. Now, when I found out about this, I offered to co-sign. Not because she asked me, mind you, but because I thought I was helping. The payment was even lower than what she had been paying on her old car, so I thought it would be manageable. Fast forward, and when I finally checked my credit report, I saw that 27 out of the 36 payments were just late. I mean, she never even told me that she stopped paying. The loan balance was about $37,000 on a car that originally cost about $40,000, but by then it was only worth about $15,000. I also paid $3,600 for a repair that she never acknowledged or even paid back. And yeah, this wrecked my credit so badly that I had no choice but to file for bankruptcy. And that's literally going to be on my record until I'm 46 years old, all for a car that I've never even driven. When I confronted her about it, she didn't take responsibility, not even an apology. Instead, she was sarcastic, she was deflecting, and was somehow making it about how I was throwing it in her face. Recently, I told her I needed room in my budget to buy a car for myself so I could get to work. Well, she refused, even though she's in a better financial position and has assets that she could use. She talks about building generational wealth and breaking curses, but her actions have done the exact opposite for me. I was rebuilding my life and she took that from me, and the emotional damage is just as bad as the financial mess that I'm in. So you know what? I'm just cutting all contact. I'm removing her from my phone plan, I'm changing her number, I'm blocking her everywhere, and I'm telling family not to pass messages between us. And honestly, right now, I'm trying to figure out how to do this because I seriously just don't know what to do. Okay, first of all, good for you for doing this because this sounds like a nightmare. Dude, 27 late payments is not an accident. At that point, this is literally just a choice. She chose to do that even though she knew you were co-signing on the car. Dude, are you kidding me right now? I think I would lose my mind if I was in your shoes. There's no way I would ever take that sitting down. So hopefully this works out for you. I'm so sorry that you're dealing with this, but also I hope you find peace because what your mom's putting you through is not fair. My entitled loser ex suddenly dumps me out of nowhere just so he could get back with his ex-girlfriend. But thankfully, karma was on my side as I got the chance to get some petty revenge that I'm sure he will not forget anytime soon. Here's what happened. A couple years ago, I was dating this guy that was really a good partner until suddenly he wasn't. Money management wasn't his strong suit, and for just about the last 6 dates that we had, he kept coming up short when the bill came, so I would have to cover it. On our last date, he says to me, "If you will buy again tonight, when my check hits next week, I'll take you to a super nice dinner." So I thought to myself, okay, sure, fine, let's do that, I guess. After dinner, we grab ice cream and we stop at his favorite store, Joann's. And for reference, he's giddy about picking out fabric for a sewing project. We wander for an hour until he finds the one and he says to me, "I'll have to come back and get it next week when I get paid." Well, 2 days later, he FaceTimes me. He drops the news that he's getting back with his ex, he sprinkles in some hurtful comments, and then he just hangs up. So I guess that super nice dinner the next week definitely wasn't gonna happen. And it was at this point I decided to get some petty revenge. The next day I walk into Joann's Fabrics and I find every bolt of the fabric he spent an hour picking out. You know, the stuff that he would spend hundreds of dollars on, because I decided to donate all of it to a local seamstress. I then blocked his number, and honestly I haven't heard from him since, and that's probably for the best. Okay, I love everything about this because this guy is a complete loser. Like, this guy's going on 6 dates already and he can't cover any of it because he's like, oh, I need to wait for my check to hit. But it's like, okay, but you clearly have money to buy fabric. Why can't you pay for a date every now and then? Like, what's going on right now? And I'm willing to bet this guy absolutely was talking to his ex long before he had this conversation with you. And you can bet he's probably gonna have the same situation with this ex as he's having with you. He's not gonna pay for anything. He's gonna be like, oh, can you cover me this time? And it's gonna be this weird cycle where I wouldn't be surprised if he went right back to you in some kind of way. So yeah, I love the fact that you took his fabric that he was so desperate to pick out and you donated it to this local seamstress literally out of spite. Like, I love that, and that is incredibly petty because this guy definitely deserves it. My cousin's idiotic boyfriend quite literally opens up a $400 bottle of scotch that was a gift to my great-grandma. And when I demanded that they replace it, they said to me that they couldn't afford it, and then they ran away from the party, putting me in a situation that honestly was incredibly unfair. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so I brought a few bottles of scotch to my great-grandma's 90th birthday party. I had 2 for everyone to share and 1 special one just for her. And for reference, my grandma loves scotch. One of my cousins brought her new boyfriend to the party, and he was going to town on the scotch. I saw him fill like more than half a solo cup of scotch 2 times. Now, I didn't want to be a Karen, but not even all the family had arrived yet to have some. And the family that was there were annoyed that the first bottle was almost gone and they barely got any. I wasn't too familiar with my cousin's boyfriend, so I asked if she could see if he would slow down, and she agreed. Later into the party, a ton more family had arrived by now, and the second bottle of scotch had been opened, which honestly was completely fine. The real problem was when I saw my cousin's boyfriend pouring from an 18-year-old bottle of scotch that I got only for my great-grandma and had put away in a cabinet after I'd showed it to her, you know, far away from all the other drinks. Well, needless to say, I was pissed and I confronted him about it, and his response was to say that he didn't want to dog the other bottle. I literally couldn't figure out why he went out of his way to open an entirely new bottle that was stored all the way away from all the other ones. And when I asked him about this, he said to me, well, how was I supposed to know? My cousin then eventually intervened, and I said, I think he should replace the bottle, to which she said that she would Venmo me $30. When I told her it's more than that and gave her the actual right price, she essentially told me that if I could spend that much on scotch in the first place, then I should just let it go because it was an honest mistake. And then after that, they just got their stuff and they left. And trust me, I wanted to go further with this, but instead I decided to pick my battle because I didn't want to fight at my great-grandma's party. Okay, holy crap, I would never let this go. Maybe I'm petty and I totally understand if I am, but dude, there's no way in the world I would ever let this go if I ever saw my cousin again. The original poster went on to say that no, the scotch was not $30, but instead it was $400, which essentially adds so much more context to this because that is crazy in my opinion. This was an exclusive gift for their family member, and this guy literally went out of his way to find it and pop it open. Like, the cousin is literally enabling this alcoholic boyfriend while also refusing to take responsibility. Like, dude, what's going on right now? So yeah, your cousin absolutely owes you a replacement bottle because this is not fair for you and you do not deserve this in the slightest. Am I the jerk for getting a dog and their owner removed from a fast food restaurant after her dog literally starts shedding hair all over my food and all over the table I was eating at? Because while she was getting removed, this Karen literally freaked out on me, cussing at me and calling me every name under the sun, all because of her choice to come into this restaurant with her dog. Because right now, I kind of feel guilty and I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so I was having lunch today and a woman walks up with a 100-pound long-haired dog that I believe was a Tibetan Mastiff. And no, for the record, this was not a service dog. She then bypassed the counter and chose to sit right at a table next to me while the person with her, who I can assume is her partner, ordered their food. Now, I'm pretty sure she did that to avoid them seeing her because this place has a strict no dogs inside allowed policy. Well, I had just gotten my food and left it on the table to refill my drink. Upon returning, I noticed her dog's hair floating on not only my table, but also one got on my fries. I then politely said to her, hey there, I'm a dog person myself, but your dog is shedding onto onto my table and my food, and I'd really appreciate it if you sit him outside or at least move to a different section. Well, when I said that, she immediately became defensive, saying that she was a paying customer and if I didn't like it, then I could move. We then went back and forth for a few minutes before I finally gave up trying to be rational and I alerted a worker to the situation. She was then promptly asked to leave, but not before calling me every name in the book and accusing me of hating animals. Now, mind you, my own dog was in my car and the AC was on while I ate for a quick 10 minutes. I told a few friends about what had happened, and they're actually mixed on whether I should have just switched tables instead of causing a scene like some of them described. Now, I'm sorry, but having a long-haired dog shedding hair around food is incredibly unsanitary, which is why the rules exist to begin with. I didn't feel this to be an unreasonable request. So seriously, am I the jerk for getting this lady removed from the restaurant? Because right now I really don't know what to do. No, I hate this so much. This is so annoying. This lady knew exactly what she was doing, and that is so frustrating to me. She knew this was going to be a problem. Like, that's why she hid in the back. Like, why else would she be back there if not to try and hide from the staff? She knew she was going to get kicked out if they saw it. Like, dude, what's going on right now? So no, you're definitely not the jerk. Like, look at the way she reacted to this whole thing. She became defensive and started blaming you for something that she did. Like, she tried to say that you hate animals, but it's like, dude, you literally brought your dog with you, and that dog's literally sitting in the car with air conditioning on, just vibing for the next 10 minutes, meaning that there's no reason this lady couldn't have done the same. And if you don't know, yeah, Tibetan Mastiffs are massive, and they can shed like crazy. So the way she's acting, in my opinion, is just super ignorant. There's no reason to cuss at someone just because they're complaining. They tried to be rational, but you wanted to act crazy. Like, I'm sorry, but I don't want your dog's hair in my food, dude. Like, that would have been a breaking point for me. I probably would have gone straight to management and been like, no, I want this replaced and I want them gone. Because messing with someone's food like that is like a cardinal sin in my opinion. There's just no excuse. And the fact that this entitled Karen was acting like this, for me, is just crazy. So no, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think this entire scenario is 100% this Karen's fault, because this literally could have been avoided if they just kept their dog in the car exactly the way that you did. My parents feel 100% entitled to my money, and despite the fact that I'm working myself to the bone, my family is implying that I'm not doing enough to support them. And at this point, I feel like I'm losing my mind and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 22-year-old female and a recent graduate, still looking for my first career job in tech. Earlier this year, I worked 2 jobs, but after getting laid off, I've been surviving on part-time work and small freelance gigs. But even so, my family acts like I'm their full-time bank. Now, I already cover my mom's phone bill, my car insurance, and other day-to-day expenses. But now she wants a $300 monthly allowance for bills. And if I ever push back, she says to me, well, I took care of you, so you should take care of me. She and my stepdad also expect me to build free websites for their businesses, plus help with our family jewelry business as well. At a recent jewelry show, I came straight from an overnight shift, fixed my car at 8 o'clock in the morning, worked the event all day, then went back to my night job. I paid for materials to make custom pieces, but my mom kept both that money and the money from her own sales. My older sister also couldn't make rent, so I ended up having to send her $500. My mom then told me to pick up extra shifts to keep helping her out. Also, my dad, who lives out of state, is constantly asking me for money, and this is money meant for himself or his friends, while also spending his own earnings on alcohol. Before COVID, he was financially stable, but now he's broke and waiting for me to get my real job so I can somehow fund his life. He recently said I should have paid for him to go to Africa for his sister's 50th birthday, and now he wants me to pay for a Christmas trip to London, even though I barely make anything right now, which I told him, by the way, but instead he just gets mad at me. He'll say things like, you save for things that you care about, and then he would just hang up on me. My mom also got mad at me a few weeks back when she asked how much I had in my savings, but told her at this point nothing, because I had to dip into my savings to help my older sister with her rent, and my dad wanted me to fly to visit him and my sisters and go to youth camp, so I saved to be able to do that, and then while I was there, I had to dip into my own savings to pay for more things, because my dad would just say, you're an adult now, no one's gonna pay for you. I also had to pay to get my car fixed, where I had to pay $900 for new tires, and my brakes were messed up. But despite all of this, she's still mad at me that I have nothing left over at this point. Now, I get that helping family is part of life, but I feel like I'm expected to fix everyone's problems while sacrificing my own stability. I can't save any money, I can't plan for my future, and I have no room to just exist. I'm always the responsible eldest daughter, holding literally everything together. My mom and stepdad just don't think I do enough, and I don't know if it's just a disconnect with me being an American child compared to them being immigrants from West Africa, or I'm just being lazy because my stepdad tells me all the time when I get home from working overnight that I should be in the kitchen cooking for the house, while also saying that I'm useless tasteless and dirty, all because my mom cooks the majority of the food in the house, or if I'm left to cook traditional African food, and somehow it's just not up to par. I mean, how my mom's cooking is an entirely different issue in and of itself, which really has nothing to do with me. I'm exhausted, and honestly, I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this. How am I expected to be everything for them, on top of juggling my career life and getting a postgraduate job, and then just being able to have like a social life too? Because my stepdad says all I do is stay in my room, which is not true at all. So I really need to know if I'm actually this selfish person that's being described, because at this point, I don't know what to do. Okay, holy crap. Your parents and your entire family are using you for money. They're treating you like crap, and they're trying to be like, oh, you're not working hard enough. You need to pick up extra shifts to take care of everybody else. Do this and do that. Like, dude, what is going on right now? You don't deserve this kind of treatment. You don't deserve this in the slightest. And the fact that your parents are even expecting this out of you is just insane. Instead of getting a job and like providing for themselves, they're looking at you and being like, okay, you need to fix this. You need to be the one to handle this. When it's like, oh, okay, well, maybe your older sister and your dad or your mom and stepdad can all get jobs themselves, and then they can provide for themselves like they should be doing. Like, why on earth does this fall on your shoulders? Like, you're not the one responsible for them. And I just love the fact that she's trying to be like, well, I took care of you, so now it's your turn to take care of me. But it's like, no, I'm not gonna bankroll your life. What are you talking about? This is so dumb and uncalled for, it's not even funny. So no, you are not being selfish. You're literally just trying to live your life and find a good job. And in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would be trying to move far away from these people, because I guarantee you that this is how they're gonna act probably for the rest of your life. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My neighbor literally stole my son's basketball and gave it to his kid as a present after my son accidentally threw it in our neighbor's backyard. Here's what happened. Okay, so me and my son were playing catch with a basketball in our backyard. We recently moved into this house because my wife was assigned to work in the area. Well, while we were playing, my son accidentally threw the ball too hard and it landed in our neighbor's backyard. And when we rang the doorbell, we found out that nobody was home. Later that afternoon, when they returned, we told them what happened and they said they would look for the ball and give it back if they found it. Well, a month went by and we still had no ball. When I asked again, they claimed they never found anything, and I just gave up and bought my son a new basketball. Well, a few days later, we were playing again when I saw a kid in the neighbor's backyard holding our old ball. I asked him about it and he told me his dad gave it to him as a birthday present last week. But that present was clearly my son's ball, the same one they told us they couldn't find. I felt bad for the kid because he thought it was a gift, so I just let him keep it. But the fact that my neighbor took something that belonged to my child and passed it off as a present to his own kid, in my opinion, is beyond entitled. Yeah, I definitely have to agree with the original poster here. I will say that other people in the comments section kind of pointed out that your first mistake was not waiting for them to go get it, because you knew for a fact that the basketball was in the backyard. Like, I would have stayed at that front door as well and been like, hey, could you go grab it real quick, or let me go back there and get it? Because you know it went over there, like you saw where the ball went. So for these neighbors, who, by the way, I would never trust with anything ever again, to sit there and be like, well, I don't know where it went, who knows? Only to then gift their kid with a basketball that literally is yours. Like, that is super dishonest and very toxic. My idiotic assistant manager demands that I no longer do the dishes while on the clock helping out customers. So I decide to maliciously comply just to get this stupid rule overturned by only doing the dishes once my deli department closes at the end of the day, allowing me to get 9 extra hours of overtime in the process. Here's how I did it. So I work as both a teacher and at your Arizona hometown grocer, meaning that after I finish teaching 4th graders, I go work in the deli department. Now, there are tons of things to do. I can sweep and mop, take in the teas, the soups, tear down the hot case, which has about 20 items that get tossed around and have dishes needing to be done. And basically, I've developed a system where I work on the dishes as I go, and there's a bell to ring if someone needs customer service. Well, some customers didn't like this daunting task of having to ring a bell to get my attention. So a new policy has been adopted by the store management team. No doing dishes until the department is closed. And honestly, this is a big problem. The deli department doesn't have the hours to pay us past our scheduled time. And on top of this, anytime we work past our scheduled time in the departments counts as overtime, which is a double whammy for them. Now, I didn't believe this was the case, but either way, this was a logistical impossibility. I knew that I couldn't do the dishes after the department closes without, going past closing time, which is right when my malicious compliance starts to come into play. I pace back and forth through the front of the deli, watching for customers as I clean the slicers and countertops, which is the only things I could do for cleaning because they were within eyesight of customers. I have about 6 customers from 4 o'clock until 7 o'clock, walking past a sink full of dishes piled past the top and spilling over. hour. I keep thinking how dumb this is that I can't do the dishes right now, but I resigned myself to keep my plan of only working on customer service until 7 o'clock p.m. I keep tearing down stations and the dishes keep getting higher and piled more messily. But when 7 o'clock finally comes around, I start doing dishes and I finish about 2.5 hours later. Now I do this 2 more times during the week, but I then get pulled into the office to have a meeting with both the deli manager and the assistant manager. The assistant manager says, "It appears that there's a bit of a problem here. You should not be taking 3 hours to do the dishes." The deli manager then chimes in and says, "Yeah, why don't you do the dishes between customers?" Well, I slowly look over to a very sheepish looking assistant manager who looks at me like they want me to shut up. I then said, "Well, management said I can't do dishes until the department closes." This then started an argument back and forth between my deli manager and the assistant manager that literally turned so angry that I got so uncomfortable. The deli manager then said that this overtime hours isn't coming out of my department and then demanded that the manager fix it. But the assistant manager was yelling back saying that they're overstepping here. But then they looked at me and said that I need to make sure I do the dishes in between customers. So needless to say, I got to close 9 hours of overtime that week, which was really nice because now I'm considering getting some new shoes. Okay, I love stories like this so much because this really shines a light on the fact that this manager didn't know anything about the deli department. They literally just don't know what they're talking about and they don't know the fact that, hey, we don't get that many customers, so there's no reason the original poster can't do the dishes while waiting for customers to show up. Like, this manager literally wasted everybody's time and gave the original poster like 9 extra hours for pretty much no reason. So honestly, sometimes all it takes is some like malicious compliance to get things in order because that new rule was completely stupid. My entitled ex not only cheated on me, but also is asking me to give him updates about our dog. So I decided to get some petty revenge by only sending him pictures of our dog when she's taking a poop, reminding him of exactly how I feel about him after he literally cheated on me. Here's how I did it. Okay, so my ex-fiance of 7 years recently dumped me for a younger woman that he met on TikTok. To make a long story short, I had suspicions about his infidelity since January of this year, but every time I raised concerns, I would get hit with a good old, "Oh, don't worry, babe, she's just my best friend." Well, it turns out I was right, and the very same day we called our relationship off. He's posting on social media about how much he loves his new girl. Last week, he met her in real life for the first time and moved her like 6 states away into his dad's house. And keep in mind, we've only been broken up for like exactly a month today. Anyways, we had a dog together by the name of Rosie. The house we were living in together is mine, so I decided to keep her here with me since I had more stability and she's best friends with my roommate's dogs. And he agreed that she would probably be better off with me and only asked that I send him pictures of her and keep him updated on how she's doing. So I said to him, "Sure, I'll email you some photos every few months." So every single day since then, whenever I let Rosie out into the yard, I'll take pictures of her pooping to send to my ex. I've gotten all different angles, a couple of videos, the whole 9 yards. So in a couple of months, he'll have an inbox full of our dog taking a crap just to remind him exactly how I think about him. Yeah, I love this story a lot. This is so funny to me. This guy literally left the original poster just so they could hook up with someone they met on TikTok. Like, dude, you gotta be desperate if that's the route you're going. Not to mention the fact that he's never even met her. Like, what's going on right now? That is so dumb. Like, not only was this guy cheating on you, but also he seriously had the audacity to sit there and be like, "Hey, can you send me pictures of the dog? I want to be updated every few months on how the dog's doing." So yeah, sending him pictures of Rosie taking a crap, in my opinion, is exactly the type of karma this guy absolutely deserves. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay for a wedding that I'm literally not attending? Because right now, my ex-boyfriend is really guilt-tripping me as he says that I should help offset the cost of his friend's wedding that we were supposed to go to together. But despite that, I still refuse to pay, and I'm just wondering if I'm in the wrong. Here's how it all went down. I'm a 30-year-old female, and I started a relationship with Joe in the middle of May of this year. Shortly after we started going out, he asked me to be a +1 to his friend's wedding, who we will call Meg. And while I had never met Meg, I did agree to go. We reserved our spot, and Joe booked plane tickets and a hotel room. Well, a couple of days ago, I ended the relationship with Joe. It's important to note that while money was not the main reason for the breakup, it was one of the things that we argued about most. I am very frugal, perhaps to a fault, and Joe likes to spend money on creature comforts and trips, and often expects me to do the same. Joe lives at home rent-free, while I have my own apartment. I live pretty much paycheck to paycheck, with a small stash set aside in savings. Now, there is still about 5 weeks left until the wedding. I ended the relationship when I did, partly because I didn't want to be in the pictures from the wedding and caused people to feel bad when they look back at those pictures. I am returning everything Joe left in my apartment, except for a few things that he was okay with me keeping. I also offered to pay for my plane ticket and half of the hotel stay as a good faith gesture. It comes to over $400, which is just about everything I have in my savings. Well, today, Joe contacted me and asked if I could pay another $125 on top of all of that to offset Meg's cost for my plate and everything at the reception. He says it's so close to the wedding, and since deposits have gone to vendors, I should at least pay for my portion. But I think that more than a month's notice is ample time for Meg to either fill the seat or for Joe to find another +1, who would also, by the way, be benefiting from my paying half of the hotel stay. I also think that since I wouldn't pay that money if I was attending, then I shouldn't have to pay now that I'm not. It's my understanding that people not going to weddings after they reserve a spot is just one of those costs that's inevitable, and I'm at least doing Meg the courtesy of giving a month's notice. So am I the jerk for not wanting to pay this? Because right now I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong. Oh man, no, you're definitely not the jerk here. You gave them like what, 5 weeks I think is what you said, just to like figure things out? It is absolutely ridiculous for them to come at you and be like, oh, you need to pay for your plate. Sorry, but that's just the way things are. Like, no, I don't think so. That's not happening here. So no, you are definitely not the jerk here. Today, I want to confess that I've had over 100 cars towed out of my old parking spot, and even though I didn't own a car to fill in that space, I honestly don't regret doing it for a single second. Here's how I did it. Okay, so I lived in DC for the last 4 years, and when I first moved, I had a great apartment on the Red Line, which is one of the most popular commuter lines. Since most of these commuters were middle to upper class, they usually just drove to the station and parked. My parking lot was not secured with any sort of gate or control, so regularly people in a rush would try to use our lot for either the station or for the nearby shopping complex. My first ever encounter with my parking space was with a lady who so viciously berated me when I told her that spot didn't belong to her that I made the decision to tow away any car I saw, no matter what the circumstance might be. Well, over 1 calendar year of living there, I had somewhere between 100 and 130 cars towed off of my spot. The towing company recognized me and had a regular station nearby where the tow truck would wait for the people like this to park in lots they weren't allowed to. Now, for the record, they weren't personally helping me or planning around my calls. They just patrolled our area often, and I was by far their biggest caller. I mean, I've had cars towed in as little as 2 minutes after the people left their cars. I've also had 3 cars towed in 2 hours. Entire families have broken down in my lot because their minivan suddenly disappeared after only 5 minutes at the store. And you know what? I absolutely love it. Don't park in my spot. There are towing signs every 3 spaces with big, bold, underlined letters. It clearly states this is resident parking only. You will be towed. It's not like there's one sign in the far corner of the lot. It's as plain as day for anyone parking to see that you aren't allowed to be there. There are too many rule breakers in society these days, so I guess in the end you'll have to pay for it with your own car. Okay, honestly, I've got to be honest with you. This guy is probably my hero because I am absolutely on his side. I know I'm probably taking the side of like the Joker from Gotham, but like hear me out for a second. If the common theme with these types of people is that they're rude and entitled, and they're just taking the first spot they can see regardless of who that spot belongs to, then guess what? They should be towed. They should be punished for taking someone's spot and literally denying them the right to park their car, especially if you're paying for that. And I can only imagine how expensive it is to live in DC as it is, let alone have a personal spot that's yours to use for your own stuff. So for some idiot to drive in there dodging all the signs that say, hey, don't park here, you're gonna get towed. If you're not a resident, it's gonna be bad. Then in my opinion, they absolutely deserve to get towed, and I honestly just wouldn't feel bad about it either. So good for you for doing this, because this honestly sounds incredibly hilarious. Would I be the jerk for not proofreading an important document that my best friend's son needs filled out for his law enforcement academy application? Because right now, after going through this several times, I'm honestly exhausted and I'm feeling very burnt out dealing with this unorganized individual. And at this point, I don't know if I'm making a mistake or if I'm in the right. Here's what's going on. My best friend's son is 20 years old and wants to join a law enforcement academy. Our families have been extremely close since long before his birth, and I honestly love this boy with all my heart. But I and other members of his family don't necessarily think that this is the right type of work for him. But regardless, we have been supporting him. Now, his family doesn't have a scanner, and he has a huge 30+ page document to fill out and email in. He sent it to me to print out for him, then he completed it and gave it to my husband last night to scan. The pages were out of order, several had missing information like previous addresses, his phone number was illegible, information entered into wrong places was crudely scratched out, and he even forgot to put his name on it. And I guess he got confused because it had a place for a maiden name. He has ADHD and always had trouble in school with completing assignments, and his handwriting is very childlike and practically illegible. And these are just 2 of the reasons why we feel this isn't a good fit for him. We also found out last night that he had the email for a week before he sent it to me for printing, He said he didn't get a notification that he received it. Well, we got it back in order and I started going through it, finding the errors. I then called his mom and I talked to her about it. We reprinted the pages that needed to be redone. He picked them up after work and she stood over him while he fixed it all. My husband then scanned it today, emailed it to him, and then copied it onto me. I then verified with his mom that she had looked over everything and that I didn't need to proofread it again, and she said yes. But with that in mind, here's the problem. Just glancing through, I still found errors, including the date on the signature page. Now, I've opted not to say anything and let the chips fall where they may, and my husband honestly agrees as well. Our thinking is the following. If he needs 3 other people to help apply for a position and still can't get the paperwork right, then guess what? That's on him. Now, the official email hasn't gone out yet, so would I be the jerk if I just didn't say anything? Because right now, that's kind of what I'm leaning to. Okay, this sounds obnoxious. Holy crap. I don't care whose best friend's son this is. If he can't get it right on his own, then guess what? That's his problem. Like, this is a classic case of like, oh, I want to do this thing, but I want you to do it for me. And no, him having ADHD is not an excuse. There's plenty of people who have ADHD, but can still get stuff like this done no problem. So in my opinion, I think you would be completely justified in just sending this off and saying nothing about it. Because if that paperwork is wrong in any way, then guess what? That's on him and nobody else. An entitled Karen literally stands in front of the salads that I was trying to get, as she chose to get incredibly mad at me when I reached for one in a way that was incredibly obnoxious and very performative. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened years ago, but something recently made me think of it. I went with a friend to Publix, which is a grocery store, on our lunch break so we could grab some lunch. Go figure, right? Now, for those of you who don't know, Publix has a food service counter where you can get handmade subs, fried chicken, and a few other hot food items. Now, we get there and the line is too long, and neither of us want to wait in it. So we decided to just grab some prepackaged food. I go to the prepackaged salads and there's a woman waiting in line for the food counter, standing sort of in front of the salad cooler. I take a second to look from a distance at my options and then politely say, "Excuse me," and I reach for one. Well, this lady just simply doesn't move. So I think to myself, okay, whatever. I'll just go ahead and lean around her, I guess. So I pick up the salad and I realize it's not what I want. Once again, I awkwardly lean around her and I say, "Excuse me" again, return the salad, and then I pick another one. Well, at this point, she huffs and turns to her friend and says loudly, "Am I invisible? Do they not see me standing here?" And then she gives me the death stare. Now, I was so taken aback, I just turned and walked away, which I do regret doing, but I'm on the spectrum, and sometimes I miss social cues. So I thought I had done something to earn such a reaction. Luckily, my friend and coworker was with me and confirmed that it wasn't me that was the problem. Looking back, she was just being difficult for no reason. There was plenty of space for her to have stepped forward and kept her place in line. Like, I just wanted a salad and you were standing in front of them. Like, honestly, I don't know what you want me to do with that, because seriously, you were literally in the way. Yeah, I can't stand people like that, because literally it seems like this lady was doing that on purpose. Like, I'm sure she knew you were right around her trying to get a salad off like the rack next to her, and she just decided, "Oh, I'm just gonna stand here in the way. I don't have to move for you." And it's like, no, you're right. You really don't have to move for me, but if you're not gonna move, then I'm gonna go around you. And I'm gonna make you look really silly in the process. Like, I asked you twice to move out of the way. Please excuse me. I'm trying to get past you. So at that point, I'm just gonna go around you as if you don't exist. So to that lady, no, you're not invisible, but you are being an idiot. And if you want to act like a statue, then I will move around you like a statue. I got no time for that. So yeah, I wouldn't let this bother you, because people like this honestly have bigger problems in life, and you just so happen to be the person that they were going to take it out on. My entitled stepsister demands to move into the house my late father left me without her being expected to pay anything towards rent or literally anything with the house. But after she mistreated me and my father for the entirety of my childhood, I decided to shut her down and say no, choosing instead to keep her out of my house, as she has literally never treated me like family. Here's what happened. Okay, so my dad passed away last year and left me his house. It is fully in my name. Now, there's no drama about that part, but here's what's getting really wild. My dad had been married to my stepmom for about 12 years. She has a daughter who we will call Claire, who I was never close to ever. We were teenagers when our parents married, but Claire made it very clear that I wasn't real family. She never called my dad by the name Dad, would exclude me from anything she planned, and simply loved telling people that we weren't related. And you know what? I just accepted it and moved on. After the funeral, which Claire didn't even attend, she messaged me, not to say sorry, not even to offer support, but instead to ask if she can move into the house for free. She said that she was struggling and that we were sisters now, now, and that dad wouldn't want her to be homeless. Meanwhile, she barely acknowledged my dad when he was alive, only showed up when she needed something, and now she wants to live in the one thing that he left me. Well, I told her no, I'm living here, and I'm not about to share it with someone who never treated me or my dad like family. When I said this, she flipped out and said I was punishing her for being a dumb teenager. Then my stepmom messaged me too, saying I was heartless and that family is family. But Claire never treated us like family until it became convenient for her. I'm just protecting what my dad left me. Okay, honestly, dude, this is absolutely ridiculous that your stepsister's acting like that. She didn't even have the decency of showing up to the funeral. You know, the bare minimum of what she would be expected to do. Like, good lord, that is so unbelievably entitled. And not just that, it's just toxic and nasty for no reason. From the sounds of it, you guys didn't do anything to Claire. I'm willing to assume that she had some kind of decent childhood, and her only grievance was that she now had step-siblings and a stepfather. So for her to not even apologize for the way she acted, but also to sit there and be like, oh, I was a dumb teenager, you can't blame me. Like, that's just stupid in my opinion and completely unacceptable. So yeah, if I was in your shoes, I would do the same thing. I would return the favor and be like, sorry, but it seems like you're gonna have to figure something out. Because last I checked, we're definitely not sisters. Because if we were sisters, you would have treated me better when we were growing up. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. A car dealership I've never been to keeps contacting me by mistake, as some idiot literally put down my email address as a contact for whatever they're trying to do with their car. And despite the fact that I've begged them to please take my email address off of your system, they have yet to listen and instead just completely ignore me, forcing me to take some petty revenge that I'm sure they were never expecting. Here's how I did it. Okay, I live in the United States and I kept getting emails for someone else's car appointments from a dealership in another state. I was able to figure out the person's actual email address, so I messaged them to let them know the wrong email was in the dealer's system, but unfortunately they never responded to me after several messages being sent. My next step was to contact the actual car dealership, which was very easy. I spoke to at least 3 different people over the course of like 4 or 5 months, and they all assured me that they would update the information, but as you can probably guess, nothing ever happened. So I then took it upon myself to mess with all of them. I would reply to the emails that the appointment needed to be rescheduled. In some cases, I would get notified of my upcoming appointment, and I did that for probably a year. I could tell based on the emails that the vehicle was a new vehicle, so they must have had some kind of standard free services like oil changes that they were providing and setting up appointments for. After the first year of doing this, I decided I wanted to sell the car. I used one of the calculators the dealership provided, and I would set up phone calls to have sales reps contact me to discuss trade-in value and what kind if a new car is what I was looking for. And I can assume it was really confusing to the car owner when they were getting those calls. Now, over the course of this, I would also get surveys, and I would always indicate in the email that I would like a call back. And this is kind of a 2-for-1 petty revenge, one for the owner of the vehicle and one for the car dealership. Eventually, I stopped getting emails, but honestly, this should have stopped a long time ago. Holy crap, this would drive me up a wall. I get so many emails throughout the day, and the fact that they're not able to like take my email out of their system after calling like 3 different times, like dude, there is no way I would put up with that. That is super frustrating. So I love the fact that you stepped in and said, okay, we're gonna get some weird revenge on these people. Because honestly, this is exactly what you should be doing, especially if they're just gonna ignore you for months at a time. Like this literally is the least you could do, and honestly, I love the fact that you inconvenienced them, because they absolutely deserve this. Am I the jerk for not giving an older coworker a ride home after she called me slow at work after I made a mistake that honestly I was trying to avoid? Because right now she is guilt tripping me hard and I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong. Here's how it happened. I'm a 23-year-old female and I've started a new job a few weeks ago and I'm still learning where everything is and how to do my job properly. I work in a big store and also have a learning disability, so it takes me a bit longer to learn things than the average person. I work with this older lady in her 50s who has been training me, and unfortunately I messed up a few times yesterday. This lady had been working at the store for about 20 years. I was raised by my grandparents, and I understand older folks can say things that may come off as offensive, even if they don't intentionally mean to. Well, she laughed at me and told me that I've been here for a few weeks, and I shouldn't be making mistakes. She had asked me if I drove myself to work, and I said yes, and she continued to laugh again, and asked me how I didn't get lost, implying that I'm slow. Now that really bothered me because as I mentioned above, I do have a learning disability, and I really do try my best at work. She was complaining about me to management, telling them them that I was too stupid to even function, that they need to stop hiring slow people, and that they should just fire me altogether. The next time I saw her, I explained that I have a learning disability and that it takes me a little bit of time before I can get things perfect. I also told her that her comments were making me uncomfortable, and if there was any way that we could get past this. When I said this, she told me that I was being too sensitive and that my generation just can't take criticism anymore. At that point, I honestly decided to stay away from her and just focus on my job. Some of the comments she was making about me were making me feel uncomfortable. Now, I hope I'm not being overly sensitive, but I don't appreciate being insulted and verbally mistreated even after I try to communicate and talk it out like an adult. Well, fast forward to the end of the shift, and she followed me to the bathroom and asked me if I could give her a ride home. But you know what? I just told her, well, not today. And when I said that, she tried to make me feel guilty because of how old she is, and that I was denying an older woman a ride home. She then stated that I was being immature and that I was holding a grudge on her because of what she said. I walked away from her because I just wanted to go home and not have any more confrontation. But you know what? I honestly was just not comfortable giving her a ride home. I don't even know this woman. I also wasn't happy with the fact that she insulted me multiple times during the shift and made some comments about me that were completely uncalled for. I try to be kind and help out whoever I can, but I'm also not going to go out of my way for someone who has insulted me and made me feel uncomfortable. So seriously, with all things considered, am I the jerk for denying an older woman a ride home? Because right now, I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong. Okay, your coworker's being super inappropriate. She seriously is going to sit there and be like, wow, you're slow, you deserve to get fired. And then in that same sentence be like, hey, can you give me a ride home? Oh, you're not going to do it? Wow, you are so incredibly awful. It's like, dude, what are you talking about right now? You literally insulted me and called me slow in front of my manager. Why should I then be obligated to give you a ride home all because you're an old woman? And also, on that same note, if I was in your shoes, I would be reporting this lady to management of some kind. This behavior is so abnormal, it's not even funny. You don't deserve to get treated this way, and you absolutely should not have to put up with it. So no, you're not the jerk for denying this idiot a ride home. As far as I'm concerned, she can walk for the rest of her life, especially if she's going to call you slow and insult you in this kind of way. An entitled Karen bullies someone over a public airport seat, literally causing a disruption that I honestly think could have been completely avoided. Here's how it happened. Okay, so I overheard this conversation in the lobby area outside my flight's gate today, and I honestly could not believe it. A lady came up to the woman sitting behind me and said something along the lines of, "You're sitting in my seat and I'd like it back." When the woman, sitting reasonably, said, "This is a public area, you can't just reserve a seat and expect people to get up for you," this lady went on a whole tirade. Something about how she'd been sitting there before, it's her seat, and she left to go to the bathroom for like 5 minutes, and she expects to be able to sit in the same place when she returns, which seemed kind of odd and unreasonable. Then she tried to shame the woman and said, "You see I have a brace on, I have a disability, just let me sit down," which would be kind of reasonable if she'd asked nicely. But here's the thing, there's also a bunch of seats all around, including right next to where they were. The woman sitting said this didn't have to be a big deal, and while normally she would probably just get up, she said she wasn't going to respond positively when people are being rude to her. Then some other lady joined in, and they were basically both berating the woman sitting over an extended period of time. They even tried to move her bags without her permission and would simply not let it go, even after the seat leaver sat down right next to her old seat. At a certain point, I asked them to please stop because it was just unnecessary conflict for no reason, and they seemed to actually think I was taking their side as they bullied someone for no reason. It was honestly very delusional and very entitled behavior. Okay, someone in the comment section said exactly what I was thinking. They literally said, "Oh, I would sit in that seat until the end of time," and oh my god, I feel the exact same way. If you're gonna come at me with that kind of heat, then you better be prepared to catch the smoke, dude. There's no way I'm gonna put up with that. Like seriously, what did she really think was gonna happen? Did she really think she could bully someone and treat them like garbage, and somehow they would be like, "Oh, you're right, I'm sorry I sat here. My bad, I'll move out of the way." No, dude, at that point, you're giving them a license to double down. They're never gonna stand up now. They're gonna sit there forever. And I know for a fact, if I was the person getting yelled at, I would sit in that seat and be smug the entire time, because that crappy behavior absolutely deserves to get punished. My job forces me to deal with big parties at a restaurant I work at, and the one complaint I have is that people never remember their order, and I'm truly so done dealing with this that I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I want to start off by saying that this is really a big rant because this is something that's really been annoying me lately about my job. Now, I need to emphasize that I'm not a server at the restaurant I work at, but instead I am a busser, a runner, I do expo, and I'm a host, and often all at the same time because the place I work at is severely understaffed in those positions. questions. I don't know any other place to put this, so here I am posting my story on the internet. I work at a restaurant that is affiliated with a sports center, so we get big parties in the form of sports teams on the weekends. And typically a big party ranges from anywhere between like 12 to 30 people, but sometimes tables bigger than that can pop up from time to time. Even though I'm often feeling tired after weekend shifts, the people working are great, management is amazing, but sometimes the customers get under my skin to a degree that's honestly quite infuriating. The last 3 weeks have been something to behold when it comes to these big tables. For instance, we had one big party of 26 people, and not only did they spread out and take up 3 of our biggest tables, but they also made passing out the food difficult because nobody remembered what they ordered. At one point, I had to go to all 3 tables with a medium cheeseburger with no tomato and no cheese, and when I got to the table that all the kids were crammed at, they all yelled and laughed at me, saying, and I quote, "What idiot gets a cheeseburger with no cheese?" And mind you, these kids were at least 15 years old. The parents then started crowding me to get their kids, and yet I had a line full of food that needed to go out to the other tables during lunch rush, so I was definitely overwhelmed to say the least. Last week, we had another large party of 24 people. Nobody claimed their food, and it took 4 times as long as it should have to get the food to the right person. And then 10 minutes later, we get complaints from the table that they were missing a plate of chicken tenders. And then 5 minutes after that, the server came in and told us that somebody was switching around plates and nobody at the table had the right food. The plate of chicken tenders, which had been delivered to the first tables, was taken by some kid at the second table. And trust me, we know, we literally counted. But my last shift was a nightmare in and of itself. I was doing all 4 previously listed jobs at once because we had no host, and we only had 2 servers until 2:00 p.m. I didn't have time to breathe considering it was Saturday, which is when most big games happen in the sports center. But through it all, I had only one request for the day. Please, just please, let me go home on time that day specifically because I had a brother and sister-in-law visiting, and they were severely jet-lagged, especially because they had my niece and nephew with them, who go to bed early anyways under even regular circumstances. Well, not only did I end up clocking out nearly an hour later than I was scheduled, I was surprised with a request to train the new guy in the last hour of my actual shift. Luckily, the evening host was there by then, but I'm not afraid to say I had quite the breakdown in the car on the way home. The customers were particularly annoyed that day too because service was slow, and for the big parties, lo and behold, and you'll probably never guess this, most people didn't claim their food. And to the one party of 12 that did know what they ordered, oh god, thank you for working with me. But that was like one party out of several. And sure, we get big parties all the time, but please, to anyone who might be reading this who's part of a big party, please work with us and remember what you order. Sometimes runners don't have servers to help them, let alone notes on what dish goes where. If you order a grilled cheese, don't say you ordered chicken tenders. I'm not saying memorize everybody's orders at the table, but if I call out your food, maybe raise your hand or something. It helps a ton, especially when we have a full restaurant. Okay, dude, I cannot describe to you how much I relate to this post. Like, dude, I have played these games before, bro. I know exactly what this is like. It is the most frustrating thing in the world. You're telling me that you can't remember the single thing that you ordered to eat that night? Like, are you kidding me right now? Like, dude, get a grip, figure out what you ordered, and seriously pay attention when I show up. Because the original poster is like living my life like just a few years ago. Like, dude, you gotta be kidding me right now. You're telling me, the person who works here, that you don't know what you ordered? I literally can't stand your kids, and you're telling me you don't know what you ordered to eat tonight? Like, dude, what are you even doing here? This is some weird convenient amnesia that I'm having to like sort through. Like, what is going on right now? So to the original poster, I know your pain, I know your struggle, and my god, I know exactly what you're going through. Because this does really suck as much as they're describing, and I would not wish this on my worst enemy. 2 entitled boomer couples make a scene at a local Taco Bell after they refuse to use the kiosk to order their food. And I'm honestly blown away by the way they acted because this really was not that big of a deal. Here's how it went down. So anyone who's been inside of a Taco Bell within the past few years knows that they've done away with their cashiers. They still have employees who handle transactions if you need to pay by cash, but otherwise you place your order on kiosks. Personally, I think this is best for everyone, all things considered, as you can customize your items however you want, and the employees can focus on making orders instead of having to take orders. Now, I've always heard stories of boomers freaking out when they have to use them, but had never actually encountered it until today. In walks boomer couple number 1. They notice other people placing orders on the kiosk, so they walk up to them. A few minutes later, I hear a commotion, and I notice the wife starts yelling about how it's too confusing, and how could anyone use these? Why am I expected to use this? Well, cut to the annoyed employee who has to walk over and place their order for them. Not even 15 seconds later, she places their order for them, and they're still mumbling under their breaths about how stupid this is. But then 20 minutes later, in walks boomer couple number 2. I wonder if the same thing's gonna happen, and sure enough, it is. First, they walk up to the counter and start staring staring at the electronic ads that are playing. An employee notices they're confused and asks them if they need any help. They then say, "Well, where's the menu? Why are there only pictures of your food up there?" The employee then has to explain that the menu is on the kiosk and they don't take orders at the counter. The look on their faces when this was said was so bizarre, like the employee had just personally insulted them. They take one look at the kiosk and they give a flat, "No, we aren't using that. You're gonna take our order or we're just gonna leave." Well, cut back to the annoyed employee from the first interaction, walking right back over to the kiosk to place the couple's order. They then start freaking out because they don't want to place an order at the kiosk. They want the employee to take the order at the register. The employee explains again that they don't do that anymore, and she once again tries to start their order on the kiosk. The boomer couple then argues some more before giving in and telling the employee their order so she can punch it into the kiosk. She goes into the back to make their food, and the boomer couple move to the side, and I hear them make some kind of remarks about, "Oh, how can these people expect to make $15 an hour if they won't even take our order?" Which honestly is an insane thing to say because this really is the easiest thing to figure out. Okay, this is so annoying and just completely weird in my opinion. Like seriously, the kiosk at any of those like restaurants could not be easier. I'm kind of indifferent about them. Like if it's there, I'll absolutely use it and I totally get it. But to stand there in front of everybody and make a scene out of that, like dude, you've got to have some real like lack of social awareness to make that happen. Because you would not catch me dead acting like that. I would just walk up and do it and get it out of the way. Like I don't want to be there longer than I need to. So yeah, this behavior is really dumb in my opinion, and there's just no reason to freak out over this. My entitled toxic coworker refuses to listen to me when I say he needs to keep his crap off of my stuff, forcing me to get revenge in a way that he will truly never forget. Here's how I did it. Okay, so I design and make leather gear that I sell at Renaissance fairs around the country. I do this with a couple of business partners, and we travel together in a large RV that we use as both living quarters and workshop. Now, me and one of my partners do most of our work on large, very expensive, very specific industry leather sewing machines. She and I have a rule that no one may touch our machines or place anything on the attached sewing tables without our express permission. They are our livelihood. They easily break and they're both expensive to purchase and incredibly costly to maintain or repair. When they break down, it means we can't produce more products, we can't keep up with the sales, and it can be very difficult to find a specialist qualified to make repairs, hence the no touching rule. Well, we used to have this partner who refused to respect this boundary, and it's funny because he would have a meltdown if anyone touched his work area, but he also had zero consideration for anyone else's space or work. He would constantly pile anything and everything on and or around our machines. He always claimed he forgot or the area was clear so it was okay for him to use it. This guy had an all cast iron, non-enamel Dutch oven that he would use, clean, oil, and then just leave on the sewing tables. And I would have to scrub the work surfaces every time he did this just to be sure the cooking oil didn't stain into the leather. Not to mention that he would always bang into the machines and we'd have to fix and readjust them before they would even work again. The first time this happened, we asked him nicely to please not do it again. On the second time, we told him to stop his disrespectful actions. But when the third time came around, we finally decided enough was enough. So I took his extra oily, giant, heavy pot and I put it on his bed under the covers, half on the mattress and half on the pillow. And when I did this, oil and cooking grease soaked into everything. And you know what? He headed to bed late and had to change all of his bedding before he could go to sleep. And yes, he absolutely had an enormous fit in the process. But I told him, well, the area was clear, so it must be okay for me to put stuff there, right? Well, after I did that, he never put anything on the sewing tables ever again. We severed ties with him not too soon after that, as you might expect. And no, this was not the only manifestation of his penchant for being a complete jerk. Because trust me, this is only the tip of the iceberg, and honestly, I'm glad we parted ways. Oh man, this would really piss me off. Imagine you have a sewing machine that literally is your job. If that thing breaks and you can't use it, then guess what? You can't work, you can't pay your bills, and then everybody suffers. So for this idiot to put his Dutch oven all over their workspace was just completely unacceptable. Because holy crap, does he know better? Like, dude, the second someone asked me, hey, please don't put your stuff there, I would make a serious mental note that no, I cannot put it there and I need to find a new home for this. Because otherwise you're screwing with someone's like livelihood, dude. You can't do that. And it doesn't sound like these are like your run-of-the-mill sewing machines. These sound incredibly expensive and very particular. Not to mention it's sewing together leather, like a really hard substance, so it's probably a very specific machine. So for him to break it when they're at a Renaissance festival in like the middle of nowhere, like I don't blame the original poster for being pissed off beyond reason. So in my opinion, I think the revenge they enacted on this guy was completely deserved. This guy was disrespecting your space, he was not listening to anything you're saying, and he was hindering your ability to make money and make a living. So I think it was only right that you return the favor and hinder his ability to get a good night's sleep. My mom's new psycho husband demands that we hand over our entire inheritance from my mom after she passed away recently, claiming that he deserves it way more than we do, despite the fact that he has literally made our lives a living nightmare for far too long. Here's what happened. So I've been reading these posts for ages, and I'm always shocked at the level of entitlement some people feel. This happened a few years ago to my sister and myself, and I figured I'd share some of the madness that comes my way as well. Mine and my sister's mother passed away whilst my sister and I were in our early 20s a few years ago. Unfortunately, our father is not involved, so we are very much a small family unit now. Prior to this, my mom did not make great decisions, especially regarding her chosen partner. After being the other woman for 7 years, he divorced his first wife and married my mom 6 months later, and my mom sadly passed away a year later while in her 40s. Now, her chosen partner, let's call him Richard because he's a complete jerk, was a completely disgusting loser. He had been leering and making comments to my sister and I for years, and my mom just didn't care as long as she was happy. She even told me once that she would choose him over me if it came to that. Now, this is to say that my sister and I despise this man with our very souls, and the only reason that we put up with him was for our mom. So our mom passes away, and we now ask ourselves, now what? Well, Richard is made executor for the estate as per my mom's will. He gets to live in her house until he dies, even though it's in mine and my sister's names. But any money is to be distributed to my sister and myself. And as you can probably tell, this was definitely not Richard's plan. I very luckily work in the same offices that were handling my mom's estate, and I get asked one day to sign some documents, and thank God I noticed that Richard had put his account as the payee rather than the trust for myself and my sister. This is also about $500,000 in our currency, by the way, that he is elected to pay out to himself with no instruction from the will, and have my sister and I sign it away under the guise of handling everything for us. Well, my sister and I immediately cut him off. We shut down the transfer and began the legal proceedings to have him removed as executor. My grandfather, who adored my mom to the ends of the earth and back, tried to speak to Richard to see why he would do this, but according to Richard, he deserved it. After putting up with my mom and her kids, he deserved to be paid, and he deserved to live in her house for free until he dies. This man, who was making suggestive comments to both me and my sister, who pressured my family into uncomfortable situations, who convinced my mother that my sister and I were just against them, felt that he deserved more than my sister and I. You know, the two people who had just lost their mother. Like, seriously, what's going on? Well, I made sure to put him through Hades. Lawyers meetings after lawyers meetings, which thankfully led to him moving out and give up any executorship, but he still ended up getting some money in exchange for disappearing from our lives. All I can hope is that his entitled self is just lonely, bitter, and miserable. Karma is the fact that he is divorced, a widow, and his kids won't even speak to him, and no amount of money is ever gonna fix that. Holy crap, imagine having somebody step into your life like this for less than a year, treat you and the rest of your family like crap, and then try to steal your inheritance from your mom. Like, this guy is definitely not your stepdad at all. This is just your mom's partner that unfortunately she flocked to for some stupid reason. Like, you don't deserve this kind of crap for a second. So I am so glad that you got him out of that house and out of your lives, because the alternative is you not reading those papers and unintentionally giving everything away to that weirdo, which would have been an absolute nightmare to deal with, especially considering how creepy this guy's been in the past. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Today, I got offered a job at a fine dining restaurant, but I'm really turned off by the interview process that I went through, as I felt very dismissed and very rushed, leaving me wondering if this is the place I should work at or if I should run away and find something else. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to preface this by saying I only have 5 months experience at a casual chain restaurant, but I have been applying to jobs because I'm not making that much money, and one of those jobs was at a fine dining establishment. I receive a text giving me 2 interview times to choose from. I choose the date, which was 2 days later, and then come in the day of and was greeted by the hostess. She then asked me which manager got a hold of me, since there was currently no manager on duty. She then proceeds to tell me that the manager that messaged me was actually off that day, so the restaurant owner would interview me when he comes in. About 15 minutes later, he walks in, asks me for my name and a handshake, and then says he'll be right back with me. He starts doing other things with the employees and such, probably helping with opening procedures, but I'm honestly not really sure. He then comes back to me, apologizes, and starts speed walking to a conference conference room as I tried to keep up behind him. He then tells me to take a seat and then began to ask me what job I was applying for, if I ever worked in fine dining, why I want to leave my current job, etc. Now, overall, the interview felt very dismissive. He would interrupt my answers halfway through them because he had to answer a text message, and even got up at one point to scold his employees for letting the phone ring over 3 times. He literally screamed, "This isn't how we set up ourselves for success. The phone was ringing too long. Go check your sections." And mind you, there were no customers at the restaurant. They had just opened and everything was already set up. At this point, I'm feeling like this was almost a show to try and get me to leave, and I was wondering why I was even asked to interview in the first place. But he then tells me that training is for 2 weeks, and then asks me if I'm up for it and if I can do the classroom training since there's so much that I need to learn. I said I was willing to learn, but that I will get back to him by tomorrow. So honestly, is it worth going in to try and train? I really did not enjoy how the interview went, and the first impression was not good at all, but I need the money and fine dining seems the best way to go for it. So should I still go and see if this is like a right fit for me? Because at this point, I'm not sure what to do. Okay, in my opinion, this sounds like a nightmare waiting to happen. Like, some people in the comments section have said this pretty well, but yeah, this guy sounds like an egomaniac. He probably wanted to set himself up as like this go-to boss who's like, "Oh yeah, we answer the phone on the first ring, not the third ring," and literally is interrupting you the entire time to pretend like he's answering a text message. Like, dude, come on, this is so stupid. And I think you're right to be like, oh yeah, this seems super performative, because that's exactly what it is in my opinion. He's making you wait to have your appointment. He's trying to micromanage and act like he's super involved in the restaurant, because I guarantee you that not only is this classroom training gonna suck, like you're probably not gonna learn anything valuable, but also I bet you anything you will never see this owner ever again. He will disappear into the shadows and collect his paycheck like he always does. So yes, if this was me, I would be running for the hills, because this job does not sound like a good one, and I'm sure you can do way better than this. My work colleague makes my life a living nightmare, as they demand that I do the same work as everybody else, despite the fact that I have an injured back. So I decide to maliciously comply by getting a note from my doctor effectively banning me from any physical work for like 3 months, which then makes my colleague incredibly angry in the process. Here's what's happening. Okay, the background here is that during work, I had an incident that damaged my back. I had slipped discs that just didn't resolve, and subsequent additional damage due to unnatural wear and tear from compensating for poor posture. And so as a result, I had a fit note that cleared me for light duties. Now, most of my store team were and are incredibly supportive for my various limitations, and these guys are my family even years later. Depending on whether I was having a good day or a bad day, they would shuffle things around just to accommodate. We did that for everyone. We worked to accommodate whoever needed a helping hand. And I just wanted to clarify that because I wasn't given special treatment. But my main difficulty is standing still, because when it comes to sitting or walking or even moving around, I am completely fine. On a good day, I can stand at the self-checkouts for a couple of hours with some pacing, but on a bad day, not at all. Good days, I can work delivery or backstock, but on bad days, I did decarding, facing up, I did putbacks, I did write-offs, and I was sitting on the tills. Well, unfortunately, one colleague was not very supportive. She considered it drastically unfair that everyone worked around my damage. She hated this so much that she went above everyone to file a complaint to the store manager that I should be forced to do self-checkouts as well. Sunday evening, a charming message was sent to the work WhatsApp group by one of the lower managers, stating to us that going forward, having paid here and there so you can't do self-checkouts or you can't do delivery will no longer be accepted. Unless you have a fit note, you can't refuse to do your task. I was scheduled to work on Monday, and thankfully it was a closing shift, so I had a narrow window to work with. On Monday at 8 o'clock, the stars aligned, because I was blessed to snag a telephone callback from my general practitioner. And if you're from the United Kingdom, then you'll know how hard it is to talk to a doctor, let alone even see one ever since the plague, because trust me, it's an absolute nightmare. Anyways, I explained the situation to her and she was furious. And with that, she emailed me an amended fit note to hand it into work. That afternoon, I cheerfully went in and handed it to the duty manager for the shift, who read it and then started laughing so uncontrollably before letting me get started. Basically, I had a 3-month note that prohibited me from any lifting, pulling, standing, or anything remotely strenuous whatsoever, and stated frequent regular breaks, effectively barring me from all tasks that I did on good days. Well, apparently that colleague blew a gasket. She filed a complaint with the area manager, who dismissed it, to which she told him she would go to human resources about this, as well as for his inaction, and was then promptly told that this would constitute harassment and disability discrimination if she insisted. But either way, I did exactly as she wanted, and honestly, it worked out in my favor, even if she's still pissed off in the process. Oh my gosh, good for you. This is really good to hear. First of all, anyone in their right mind would never be like, oh wow, this person's injured. I can't believe they can't do the same work as me. I'm gonna complain. Like, I'm willing to bet this colleague has no friends at this workplace and they absolutely are a pain to deal with. Because seriously, just be reasonable, dude. The original poster is not taking advantage of anybody. Like, come on. It's so weird to be accusatory towards someone who literally has done nothing wrong. They're just trying to make sure their back is in one piece and doesn't get injured. Like, dude, get a grip. So I personally love the way you maliciously complied and basically put this colleague right in their place because they could do nothing about it and got pissed off in the process, which in my opinion is a reward in and of itself. Am I the jerk for refusing to cancel my annual leave that I'm literally just taking for myself so that I can relax and play some video games and watch some Netflix? Because right now my girlfriend is very upset with me and doesn't understand why I'm doing this, even though I explained that I just wanted some time to relax. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I live in the United Kingdom and I get 30 days annual leave a year, and my girlfriend gets the same amount. So far, we've got 6 days booked for a holiday abroad and 5 days for some long weekends. And we both have to take at least 3 days over Christmas as our places of work are closed. Now, all of this equals to about half of our leave. We've been talking about a possible holiday next January that will take maybe about 4 days in total. Apart from that, we have nothing planned, and our annual leave refreshes in April. I decided to take 2 to 3 days for a long weekend as I hadn't had some time for myself in a while, and I thought I could do this twice over a couple of months. My girlfriend asked me what I planned to do with it, and I told her there were just some shows on Netflix and Prime that I wanted to catch up on, and there's a few video games that I've got that I just haven't had the chance to play. She said that I could easily do these after work, and that I don't need to take leave for it, but I just said I want to take the leave, and it's not like I'm using a lot of it. Well, she said that I was wasting it, and that leave could be used for a trip for us to do something instead of just sitting at home. But I told her that not every day of leave needs to be used together, and that I'm taking the days just to relax. She then just got annoyed and said I was limiting what we could do together, but I just pointed out that she was trying to limit the time I can relax. I then told her I would be taking the leave and then to drop it, and it was here that she said I was being unfair and not thinking about us. So am I the jerk for refusing to cancel my annual leave? Because right now I'm honestly super frustrated. Okay, no, I don't think there's anything wrong with what the original poster's doing. If they want to take time off and play video games and watch Netflix, then go for it. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, the original poster's right. You don't need to plan everything out anytime you take leave, and it's gonna refresh in April anyway, so like, you might as well use it now. So no, the original poster has not done anything wrong, and I think they are completely justified in taking leave as they please. Am I overreacting after my wife broke an irreplaceable family gift of mine, all during a fight about her overspending on our budget? Because right now, I'm struggling to forgive her as she has literally refused to apologize for this. Here's what's going on. I'm a 27-year-old male, and I'm really struggling to forgive my wife after a fallout from a fight. It escalated to somewhere it really didn't need to go, and I just need an outside perspective. For some context, we were high school sweethearts, and we're married now for about 3 years. We're not only partners, but we are best friends. She knows me better than anyone else, and we've been through a lot together. Our relationship was never perfect. We've had our ups and downs, but usually we can communicate to common ground, and I never doubted that we were a team. But a constant fight lately is about budgeting. We don't exactly see eye to eye on upholding it. Circumstances have changed and the budget was more relaxed before, but it simply had to be tightened because of the increase in rent. Now, the budget isn't unreasonable, and it keeps us in the boundaries of living within our means. But overall, we're just making sure we have everything covered first, all before spending elsewhere. It's not so different than the system we already had, but now that the budget is actually locked in, my wife has issues sticking with it. The other day, she went over the budget on an impulse purchase, and it put us in a bind on a bill, and I only found out what happened when I saw the deduction. She said she couldn't resist the deal and splurged a bit. She thought she could pay it back before I noticed and before the other bill was due, and that simply didn't make me feel better about any of this. I then told her that I wish she would have just communicated with me since it went over our budget, but she said she wasn't a child who needed permission and that she intended to return the funds. We then got into a fight, and it was the biggest one we had had in a while. Now, I have this pottery piece that was a gift from my great-grandma. We were very close and she handcrafted it for me. Well, my wife broke it during our fight. She literally slapped it right off its shelf. I was too far away to grab it and she never even attempted to. And as you can guess, the pottery was smashed to pieces, and I swear she did it on purpose. I watched her make eye contact with it before swinging her hand, and I feel like she was angry at me and retaliated in the moment. And I'm now really hurt. The pottery was irreplaceable. My wife knew how much it meant to me, but she hasn't taken accountability or apologized. She only keeps saying that it was an accident, and now she's being extra affectionate verbally and physically. But you know what? I simply haven't been receptive. I know to someone else it was just pottery, but it meant a lot more to me. I don't want to believe that my wife broke it on purpose, but I can't shake the possibility that she did. So I honestly just don't know. I'm struggling to forgive her. I don't want to build resentment or fight anymore. So am I overreacting, or is there any way that I'm in the right? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, I want you to understand that yeah, she did that on purpose 100%. She looked you in the eye and smacked that specifically off the shelf just to hurt you. She knows how much that meant to you, and she knows that it's something that was irreplaceable. So she smacked that off the shelf on purpose just so she could hurt you in some kind of way. And this is all because she's overspending. Like, dude, think about it for a second. This is so messed up. And the part that would drive me crazy is that she did not even apologize. She's trying to be verbally and physically affectionate. But it's like, dude, not even like an apology of some kind? Really? You're just gonna act like this didn't happen and try and be on your merry way? Like, that is unacceptable behavior in my opinion. That would drive me up a wall, and I just don't care who you are. So no, you're not overreacting here. I would have a very hard time forgiving someone if they're not willing to apologize and admit fault, especially something that was a family heirloom of some kind that you just cannot replace. Because in my opinion, she absolutely did that on purpose. My close friend of 5 years dropped out of my wedding out of nowhere and is now dropped off the map and completely ghosted me. And right now I'm wondering if I did something wrong, because at this point I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so this is all a bit complicated and I'm still very hurt and confused about losing a friend, so bear with me. I met my friend about 6 years ago, and while we were not besties, I would say that we were close. We went on vacation together and we shared a room. She was going to attend my wedding, and about 2 weeks before the date, when I sent out details about the bachelor party, she texted me and said, "I am no longer attending your wedding." And that was all. I asked if something was wrong or if she wanted to talk about something, but I got no response. Now, many of my guests were confused that she wasn't there and asked me later, but the only explanation I could come up with was the following. About a month before everything happened, I was going to buy one of her courses. It's like this marketing course, and I wanted it for a while, but I had to save up for it as it ran for about $1,000. Well, I guess the pricing changed, and they now had a sales call to get the course instead of a sign-up version it used to be, and the course ended up being like 3 times the price now. Now, I still signed up, albeit feeling unsure about it, but the sales rep didn't show up to our follow-up call that night, and afterwards they hadn't even responded or sent full materials in 48 hours. So at that point, I just asked for a refund. Now, I was absolutely professional at any point of that conversation with the sales rep, so it honestly still confused me, because I never expected me wanting a refund to affect the relationship to the point that someone would basically ghost me. Well, I shared this story with 2 of my friends that asked about it, and everyone says it sounds off and how sometimes people just change, but it didn't really help me understand or make peace with what happened. I assumed that even if something hit a nerve, someone who calls themselves my friend would at least just ask me about it, and never would I have assumed that someone who was attending my wedding would be able to cut me out like that no problem. I'm still debating if I should say anything at some point, because I would apologize if I knew what it was all about, because right now I'm honestly so confused and I just don't know what to do. Okay, first of all, who in their right mind is taking a $3,000 marketing course, dude? That really does sound like a scam in my opinion, and I think you dodged a train. Like, what's going on right now? But honestly, I think this absolutely is the reason why this friend backed out and said, "We can't be friends anymore." Like, even $1,000 for that kind of course is way too much. Like, what's going on right now? You could probably find a cheaper course that's like way easier to access than whatever crap this lady's trying to sell you. Like, what's going on, dude? Because this really sounds like some kind of like multi-level marketing scheme. It doesn't seem legit, and it really does seem like they only wanted to be friends with you as some kind of like transactional thing. So yeah, I know you might be like upset about this friend walking out and ghosting you, but I think you clearly dodged a train that she was trying to like set up on this track for a few years now, as this course of hers doesn't sound very legit, and I think you're better off without her in your life. The entitled father of a classmate gets pissed off at me when I block his number after he calls me 21 times in a single day as he was trying to figure out what my scores were for a national medical entrance exam, which is honestly one of the weirdest situations I've ever been in my entire life. Here's how it all went down. Okay, to start things out, I participated in India's medical entrance exam for undergrads based on class 11 and 12 syllabus. I joined a coaching center for prep and only made casual acquaintances, mostly for notes. The coaching living was far from most homes, so parents usually just pick their kids up. And I guess this is how one girl's father ended up asking for my number. Now, mind you, we were just classmates and we barely even spoke. Anyways, right after the exam, this man calls me up and asks me what the score range is that I'm expecting. I then just gave him a rough estimate since I was really not that confident. I had boards and this exam around the same time, and I was focusing more on the boards than I was the medical exam. He then starts full-on lecturing me about wasting my parents' money and time. Now, I was already stressed and disappointed, so I just zoned out and hung up after saying okay just a few times on the phone. Well, a couple months later, when the medical exam results came out, he called me 7 times in the morning, 7 times in the afternoon, and 7 times in the evening. And the next day, he called me 4 more times. And you know what? I ignored all of it and just finally blocked him. Well, his daughter then steps in and messaged me asking if I blocked her father. And I said yes because he was being extremely weird about my results. She then said it was disrespectful and that they just wanted to know my marks and which college I'm getting into. She kept pushing to know my information, so I finally said no and just blocked her too. Honestly, I do not get why some people think they have the right to question random students about their exams, like there's some kind of school authority or something like that. It boils my blood every time I think about it, and honestly, I don't regret blocking them for a single second. Okay, this is really weird to me because what father in their right mind would be like, okay, random person that goes to this study course with my daughter, tell me about your exams, and then proceeds to call you over a dozen times in a single day. At that point, this had better be some kind of emergency because I'm gonna lose it if I ever pick up that phone. Even calling 5 times is too much for me. Dude, what are you doing? This guy hit you up 21 times in a single day. That's almost once an hour, dude. Give it a rest. And then for his daughter to step in and be like, wow, you blocked my obnoxious father. Let me take his place by also being obnoxious. Holy crap, I don't know if you guys have a thing for the original poster or not, but you need to take a step back and pump the brakes, bro. So yeah, this guy was out of his mind and I don't blame you for blocking him because his behavior was super creepy and super entitled. An entitled Karen demands that I add her order to another customer's bill simply because the other customer is her ex-boyfriend, as she claims he should be responsible for everything in her life. But when I say no, this lady goes into an absolute spiral, freaking out on me in a way that I honestly never expected. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so this happened about 6 years ago back in 2019. So I was a 21-year-old at the time, and when I was still living in New Jersey, I just finished college and I was working as a shift manager at a fast food restaurant, which of course I'm not gonna name, while also doing my tattoo apprenticeship. One day, one of the cashiers, who I will call Jane, came up to me and asked for help as there was a situation in the counter that she didn't really know how to deal with. At the counter was this man, his son, and behind him was this woman with 2 younger kids. The man then explained that he's the father of his 10-year-old son, and the woman behind him is his ex, who is the mother of his son, but he is not the father of her 2 other kids. He had custody of his sons today, so he was taking him out for lunch and to try and visit a museum, but the baby mama and her 2 other kids, as he called her, just so happened to also show up at the restaurant at the same time that he pulled up. She was demanding that he also treat her other 2 kids for lunch and take them to the museum as well, but the man said he is responsible for his son and only his son. His ex then tried to interject, saying that she didn't want her kids to be left out while the oldest kid, the son, got special treatment, and that their dad's not in the picture. That being said, she wanted the man to pay for the lunches of her 2 other kids as well. I told Jane that I'll take it from here, and the man told me that he'll order 2 combos for himself and his son. And as I was taking the order, this woman literally then tried shouting the order of her 2 other kids. At this point, the man and his ex then started arguing again, and then the man turned to me, adamantly stating he will only pay for his order and that of his son. Plus, on top of that, he will be paying in cash. But this woman then started shouting at me that I need to add her order to his as well. But I just told this woman that she will need to wait her turn. I mean, the man paid for his order and waited. The woman then came up to me, gave me her order, plus that of her kids, but when I told her the price of her 5 combos for herself and her 2 kids, she then asked if her ex had already paid for all of it. I told her that his order was only for himself and his son, and that her order was separate from his. And it's also I only took her order after the man paid, so yeah, we're not going back on that. This woman then started screaming at me and how hard it is for her to be a single mom. She says she doesn't have the money to pay, and then she began pointing at her ex again, saying that he should have to pay for her order because he's single, has a full-time job, and lives by himself. Well, the man then spoke up and started shouting, reiterating that her other 2 kids are not his responsibility. Now, at this point, I told the woman that I sympathize with her, and I genuinely do, but unfortunately, I can't just add her order to that of another customer who already paid. Not to mention the fact that he very specifically said he would only pay for his order. I then asked her if she's still paying for her order or if I need to cancel it. And it's here that she literally tried to grab the credit card her ex had, but he pushed her off of him. And then after that, she left the store, telling the man to take her other 2 kids with him to the museum. And yeah, you heard that right. She legit just left her kids with him. Now at this point, I did not know what else to do. But the man then told me that he'd also like to buy some fries and chili for her 2 other kids. And then he just told me that he'd drop these kids off at his ex's place himself. I then told him not to bother paying for the extra fries as it was on the house, and I'll just add extra fries to the existing order. Because from the sounds of it, this guy definitely had a very rough day. Okay, I kind of see why that guy broke up with that lady, because holy crap, that's an entirely different level of crazy in my opinion. Who in their right mind would be like, oh yeah, you're gonna pay for everything that I've got because you're single and you have a full-time job? It's like, dude, no, I'm not gonna pay for anything for you and I'm only gonna take care of my son. Like, what's going on right now? This lady literally has kids with another man and she's trying to be like, these are your responsibility too. And it's like, dude, no, it's not. That is absolutely not how it's gonna work. And I love the fact that she literally tried to get on the original poster and be like, oh, come on, you're supposed to help me out. And it's like, dude, I just work here. I'm not interested in some weird pseudo custody battle, dude. Like, get a grip. But I think overall, I'm like super blown away that that guy willingly said, okay, I'll just drop these kids off and I'll buy him some extra food or something. Because if that was me, dude, I would literally report her or something. You can't just drop your kids off with someone who is not their father and be like, it's your responsibility now. Take them to the museum for all I care. I'm out of here. Like, seriously, that's some bad behavior, man. You're not a good mom if you do that. So yeah, I think the original poster handled this perfectly. And I can only imagine how funny that must have been later on thinking about it and like talking about it with coworkers. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My girlfriend went on a girls' trip out to a cabin, only to then return a completely different person, as she went from a bubbly, joyful person all the way down to this reserved and very quiet individual who looked like she was trying to hide some kind of secret. But after doing some digging and trying to figure out what happened on this trip, it was eventually revealed that my girlfriend had straight up cheated on me while she was on vacation. And now I've decided to break up with her and move on with my life, even though this is the hardest thing I've ever had to deal with. Here's how it all went down. I'm a 25-year-old male and I've been with my girlfriend for a couple of years now. We've been living together for a few months and things have been mostly really good. Like, yeah, little arguments here and there, but nothing major. Well, last weekend she went on a trip with her college friends over to this lake house or cabin that one of their families owns. It was something that was just for the girls, kind of like a last summer thing before a couple of them move out of state. And you know what? I was totally fine with it. I told her to go and have fun because I literally had no issue there. But when she got back, something felt off immediately. Like, she walked in and just barely looked at me. She gave me a quick hug and then went straight to the bedroom to unpack. She didn't even say that she missed me or anything like that. We usually text a bunch when we're apart, but she was kind of distant the entire trip too. Like, she was giving shorter responses and slower replies. Ever since she's been back, she has been weirdly quiet. Not mad or anything like that, but just really distant. She's been zoning out, not really laughing at stuff like she usually does, and just kind of flat when we talk. I asked her how the trip was and she literally said, oh, it was all right, and then would change the topic really fast. There were no stories, no funny moments, no pictures, no nothing, which really is super unlike her. She normally comes back from an outing with like 10 stories and a ton of photos. The other thing is that she's been journaling a lot since she came back, which again, it's not bad, it's just something new. She's always kind of been into mindfulness and stuff like that. I then asked her if everything was okay, and she just said that she's tired and processing a lot at the moment, which is kind of like, okay, whatever that means, I guess. I tried pressing gently, and she told me I was being overly clingy, and that she just needs a bit of space. Now, I've never been called clingy before, so that really stung for me. I've tried asking her friends if something happened, but they kind of just brush it off and tell me not to worry. So now I'm just sitting here like, okay, what happened on that trip that made her come back a totally different person? She's not mad at me, I think, but it honestly feels like she left as one version of herself and came back as an entirely different person, and she simply won't let me in at all. I'm trying not to make a big deal out of it, but I feel like I'm being iced out and I have no clue why. What should I do? Before we go any further, the original poster has an update they'd like to share, and honestly, things get kind of weird. Here's what's going on. Okay, so first off, I want to thank everyone who commented or messaged me, because every little bit helps me when it comes to talking about this. I read everything, even if I couldn't reply back to everyone, and while some of it did help, other parts of it really made me feel worse. Okay, so here's the update. It wasn't really a planned discussion or anything like that, but it just kind of happened out of nowhere. Now, I had earlier asked one of her friends if something was going on, and she again just didn't really open up, but told me it wouldn't be her place or or job to say if something did or didn't. Now, I thought I wouldn't really get anything out of her, so I just kind of said screw it and I would just try and talk to my girlfriend later on. Well, she then came home from work and was just acting off again. You know, the usual I've been dealing with ever since this trip. She barely said anything, didn't really eat the dinner I had prepared for her earlier, almost immediately went for a long walk outside, and afterwards went straight to the shower and spent a long time there. Later, she kind of just stayed in our bedroom laying about and not really engaging with me at all. I haven't seen her writing in her journal at all today, and honestly, I don't think much of it. I then went in after a while just to ask her about her day gently, and no, I wasn't pressing her or bothering her about it. Just calmly asked if she could please just talk to me, and that I care about her and how she feels. I told her I wasn't trying to fight or blame anything on her. I just wanted to understand what's going on, and since we always share everything, it's unfair to keep me in the dark like this, and that I'd support her either way, whatever it is. Now, she didn't say much. She kept mumbling about not knowing what to say, wasn't really feeling it as she was tired, etc. So I stepped back, I spent some time on my own, and I decided to go for a walk. But eventually, later today, she started opening up a little. I guess she had enough time to reflect and gather her thoughts. I'm not going to try and put every single word she said here in quotations, because it kind of feels personal, but also, I'm still trying to process it myself. But basically, yeah, something did happen on the trip, and something happened with her and the girls. She didn't say word for word what she did in detail, but she made it really clear that it went way past what would be okay in a relationship. And from the sounds of it, it's like way past what would be okay. There was plans of drinking during the trip, and I know my girl drinks and I do too, but it's never been a problem. I was expecting it, and I think it's normal, and I encourage her always to have fun if she wants to, since, you know, I trust her. She's been to raves and parties, etc., and I've never seen a problem with that at all. It's not my right to limit her hobbies, even if I don't always match her energy. And mind you, she has never been a heavy drinker, at least not around me, and we've never had to talk about her alcohol usage. She's been a well-behaving adult for all of our relationship, and if she has been drunk, it's always stayed well within the limits of good taste. Well, she then said that what happened wasn't planned, and that it just kind of did, and that she wasn't herself, which honestly just made me feel a knot in my stomach, like she was preparing me for something really, really bad. So I encouraged her to just say it, that she has already said enough for me to not back down now. I mean, I really deserve to know about this. She then said that the trip honestly went well regarding the original plan. They drank, went to the sauna by the lake, they swam around, they played games, they hung around like normal, and it doesn't sound awful, right? It sounds like a normal weekend trip with a bunch of friends. So then, later that night, they had been drinking more, they were partying and listening to music, enjoying themselves, and some of them were drinking and hanging out in the hot tub, while some of them were hanging out inside the cabin playing a board game and talking. Now, my girlfriend kinda talks in circles about this, and tries proving during our talk how it was in the end a good trip, and that they all really did enjoy it. But eventually though, she gets to the point and tells me why she's been so down. Later in the evening, someone had suggested they do a drinking game, and honestly, I don't see any issue with that, since I like partying and I like games too. It's all this good fun within these set limits. They had played bottle spin, the usual, with an added twist of drinking or doing the dare, and a couple of the girls were pushing it and encouraging it. She admitted she went along with it and wanted to play along, but the way she said it honestly makes me just feel like, man, I don't know. She really looked ashamed of herself and kind of said it in a quiet tone. The dares had been innocent and normal at first, kind of the tame stuff that you might expect, the usual that you hear everywhere. They would ask questions like, who's your celebrity crush? What's your darkest secret? Sing a particular song, and I imagine the rest would be along those lines. But eventually they had gotten out of hand as the game went on and more drinks were consumed. Some of the girls then started to dare the others to kiss each other, pick out who they would F, marry, kill, if you know what I mean, pour out drinks into each other's mouths and stuff like that. And obviously it sounds like to me something that can lead to something very bad very quickly. My girlfriend then says she didn't know better or deny a good time. She says she felt it was fun in the moment and didn't feel that she did anything wrong, and it was all consensual and nobody minded it, and that it's normal for girls to do after getting tipsy, and that she doesn't even remember everything that well, and apparently had a hangover the next day, and says she isn't really sure if she did anything at all. She then said that she felt bad because she obviously doesn't like the girls that way, or she would say that she normally doesn't do these kinds of things, and only kind of watches from the side. She never explicitly says what she participated in, and what exact action she took during the game, but she talks like she's guilty, so it's all just a bit confusing. Well, there was one girl there with them on the trip who we will call Ellie for the sake of the story. Now, I've met her, and she's the fun, easygoing type of person, and the one I mentioned earlier in my post that doesn't seem like she would hurt me or her in any kind of way. I then asked my girlfriend if she was there since I know she was with them, and that I wanted to know if I was totally wrong about her. And honestly, I wanted to know if they all sucked and played along knowing that she has a boyfriend. My girlfriend then said that Ellie had not participated participated and kind of left the cabin when things started happening. Apparently, she had mentioned that she was not feeling well and that she would be sitting this one out and just kind of left and came back later in the night. They had talked later that night outside, but says that nothing happened between them, which honestly I completely believe. I don't know why she brought it up since Ellie's actions don't sound suspicious anyways, and I would not have expected her to do anything between them, so this just kind of felt like a weird extra detail that she added in. My girlfriend then said that she hasn't talked to her or the girls much after the trip, and I want to take a step back just to let everybody know that I didn't yell at her or get angry, but instead I just kind of sat there. I didn't know at first how to respond since she just didn't sound like her usual considerate self. She kept saying that she didn't know why she shut down, and she's been feeling horrible ever since then, that she didn't know how to tell me, and that she has needed time to word her thoughts. Well, we've been distant with each other ever since we had the talk, and it's just this heaviness between us ever since she got back, and now I know why, and I really just don't even know what to do now. I told her I needed space and I went for a walk. I then came back and just kind of sat there in the living room, not really even looking at her. Now, am I treating her the same way now? I mean, I'm shutting her out, I'm ignoring the problem, the elephant in the room, not acknowledging that things are kind of messed up, because obviously I should not be okay with this. I don't see a life without her, so her behavior is really hard to accept. It makes me question if I should sleep somewhere else tonight, or if I should break it off immediately. I mean, everything is just so messy in my head, and I don't know what to do or even how to approach it. I've really never been the confrontational type either, and even through all of this, I really do love her. Like seriously, I really do, but I don't know if I can look at her in the same way again. Not just because of what she maybe did, but because she came home and shut me out. Made me feel like I was crazy for even noticing that something was wrong. I feel like this is something she should have told me immediately, because this obviously affects us. And honestly, I don't even know if we're going to be a thing after this. We've set clear boundaries in our relationship and never crossed them. And the fact that she's still leaving details out is really bothering me, and I just don't know what to do. Okay, before we go any further still, the original poster has a final update for this entire story. To give some additional context, they've tried to reach out to Ellie to figure out exactly what's going on, because the girlfriend is not giving any information, and essentially Ellie confirmed that more people were joining them over the weekend, which was more than just the initial girlfriend group, and then basically just went back to him and said, okay, go figure this out with your girlfriend, I don't really care about this situation. So we essentially know that yes, the girlfriend did something, and then yes, there were more people there than anyone expected. And with that bit of context, this is the final update the original poster had to say. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to write this down for closure for myself and for the people who followed this, because this is a lot. I'll be staying somewhere else for a couple of days, maybe even more, before starting to make preparations for splitting off. I finally had a proper conversation with Ellie, and it wasn't quick. We talked all evening, and she didn't seem to want to at first, but eventually she opened up. She was the only one who wasn't drinking or participating, and I respect her for being so straightforward with me. She then told me the following. The group was drinking heavily, and at one point, some of the girls invited a few guys over who were staying nearby. And yes, these are guys that I had no idea would be there at all. Ellie then says that she's not sure if this was part of the plan all along, or if it was the girls' idea to do so in the moment. At the very least, she didn't know about it beforehand, and apparently the drinking game started getting more intense with the guys involved. Well, according to Ellie, my girlfriend ended up making out with two different people. One of the girls, who, by the way, it's the same girl who told me not to worry about it and wouldn't give me answers when I contacted her originally, and on top of that, she made out with one of the other guys. Apparently, there was a lot of touching that wasn't just playful. As far as Ellie knows, my girlfriend didn't spend quality time with anyone, if you know what I mean, because Ellie says that she left and didn't know the happenings afterwards. But this was far past anything I would ever be okay with, and definitely past anything we ever agreed was acceptable in our relationship. What hit me the hardest was how, according to Ellie, my girlfriend wasn't even that drunk at that point. Tipsy, sure, but not blackout or out of control. She had been laughing, very involved, and didn't seem pressured. She definitely wasn't out of it like she tried to make it sound. Ellie left because she was uncomfortable, and when she returned later, my girlfriend was still in full party mode, and talking was all blurry, and she was just a complete mess. I talked with my girlfriend, who is now my ex-girlfriend, over the phone, but all I got was mumbles or silent treatment. I even told her straight up that I know what she did, and that she could at least admit it to me before I break it off. I asked if I meant anything to her, or if all of our time together has just been fake, or just some kind of act for her. I asked her about how long she's had problems with her drinking, since I've always thought of her as a mature and smart woman. Well, when I asked this, she was sobbing, and told me she could help me understand if I came home, and that she could make up for it, and even if she did do it, she still loved me. So honestly, I'm just completely done. I can't stay in something where I'm lied to, gaslit, and made to feel like I'm overreacting for noticing something is off. She came home and shut down instead of being honest. She let me stay confused even when trying to comfort her, not to mention that she should have been honest the second she walked through the door. Not that it would have made anything right about what she did. But regardless, I'm thankful for all the messages I got and all the support I received, because this has been very rough and incredibly hard to handle. Holy crap, dude. Like, this is some serious stuff going on, man. Like, the original poster was spot on from the very beginning. They knew that something was off, but they just simply couldn't prove it. They literally said, okay, something's weird here. What's going on? You literally are not acting like yourself. Like, just tell me what's going on. And yet the original poster's girlfriend could not do it. She knew she was like completely screwed and she ruined her relationship. Which, by the way, good for the original poster for breaking up with her. This is some toxic, crazy behavior that you do not deserve in the slightest, dude. Because at the end of the day, you absolutely didn't do anything wrong. Your girlfriend cheated on you 100%. So hopefully life gets better for you moving forward, and I'm honestly so sorry that any of this happened, because I'm sure this is devastating for you and incredibly hard to deal with. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay for my brother's computer repair after he refused to help me when I needed him the most? Because he's now saying that I'm being unfair and I'm holding it against him, despite the fact that what I needed help with was really important. Because right now I really don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So my brother and I have had a rocky relationship for several years. Recently his computer broke down and he asked me to help cover the repair cost, which would be about $400 because he can't really afford to buy a new one. But here's the thing that's really causing problems with me. 6 months ago, I had an emergency. I was stuck at home because my heating broke during a freezing night, and I called him for help. And for reference, he knows that kind of stuff. Well, when I called him, he refused to come by, saying that he was too busy. I ended up calling the technician, which seriously set me back a lot financially. But now that he's asking me for money, I'm just telling him no. And no, this is not something he could fix himself because he doesn't understand anything about this kind of thing. Well, when I said no to him, he got angry and said I was being unfair. But I just told him I'm not willing to help out after how he treated me last time. But I will say, on the other side of this, I also think if I help him now, maybe he'd be kind enough to do the same thing for me when I need it. So seriously, am I the jerk for not giving my brother $400 for his computer? Because I'm really not sure where to go with this. No, I don't think this is something you need to worry about. This is literally just a computer that, from the sounds of it, is not something he needs for work or anything like that. Because if it was for work, then I guarantee you they would fix it and like repair it if they needed to. If anything, it's just a personal computer that he wants working, and he's just going to you looking for $400 so he can have what he wants. But that is so different in my opinion compared to what you went through, because literally you're dealing with no heating in a freezing house. Like, that is absolutely not even close to the same thing. And for him to even begin to compare the two is just so weird in my opinion. So no, you're not the jerk for not giving him money, because it doesn't sound like he would ever return the favor. And I guarantee you, even if you did help him out, chances are he definitely would not return that kindness at all, and you would just be wasting your time and money on something that he could easily figure out on his own. My fiance was caught kissing my twin sister, as I literally just found out they'd been texting each other behind my back, all leading up to them kissing at a family reunion. And I'm honestly so heartbroken that right now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 28-year-old female and I really need some advice. For some backstory, I'm engaged to my longtime partner and I'm in the process of planning our wedding. My fiance and I are at our family's lake house for a week-long family reunion. I've been super excited for this trip to have a much-needed break from work and wedding planning, and also to have a chance to see all of my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, and basically my whole family. Well, this morning, my cousin pulled me aside and actually told me something completely unexpected. She said she went upstairs to grab some clothes, and as she was walking down the hall, she saw my twin sister and fiance talking quietly in one of the bedrooms. Then she said she saw them share a quick kiss. And just so we're clear, we are fraternal twins, meaning there's no chance we could ever be mistaken for one another. And honestly, I'm completely in shock. My twin sister and I have always been so close. My first thought was that there was no way this happened. I have never seen or noticed any tension between my fiance and sister, and they also have limited opportunity to be around one another. We live about an hour away from one another and they are busy with work. I cannot imagine that either of them would do this. I'm also wondering what to believe of what my cousin told me. I have no reason not to trust her, but I just want to believe that she saw something wrong. I don't really know. I mean, a kiss is really hard to mistake. So I'm currently resting up as I have period cramps and I just don't feel well. I then asked my cousin to at least keep this to herself so I can figure out what I want to do. We're all staying here together for the week until Sunday, so if I confront them now, I know this would cause a huge scene. However, I don't know if I can wait until we get back home, knowing that I'm just festering inside with this knowledge. So I'm turning to the internet right now to see what I need to do. I don't know if I need advice or I'm looking for support or what. I suppose any advice or comments are appreciated because right now I don't know what to do. Before we go any further, the original poster actually has an update that they wanted to share. Here's what they had to say. Okay, so after going back and forth on whether I should try to snoop through my fiance or my sister's phones, or just sitting everyone down and asking what happened, I decided to go through with the latter. My cousin actually came back later to my room to check on me, and we had a brief conversation. She let me know she supported whatever my decision was, and she would be there to back me up if I needed that. Now, while it was sweet, it kind of squashed any thought that my cousin could be manipulating the truth. And honestly, after that conversation with her, I couldn't keep holding this in. I then got the four of us together and I laid it all out there. I told them that my cousin came across them talking in the upstairs bedroom and had witnessed them kissing. And honestly, whoever told me to tell them what I knew and then zip my lips, seriously, I need to thank you. I didn't even have to ask any questions because I could see the guilt flooding over my sister. It seemed like my fiance was trying to find a way to backtrack, but then my sister started profusely apologizing and crying. While she's crying, my fiance tells me it was a mistake and only one kiss. And it's here that I said I wanted them to show me their phones, and if it was only one kiss, I shouldn't find anything. Well, my fiance hesitated again, but I told him that we would be done if he didn't let me see it. From what I could find, my sister started flirting with my fiance, starting off with compliments. I don't know if she was just stroking his ego, but their text messages were very much so flirty in nature. Up to this point, I'm pissed but unsure what this means for our relationship. That is until I get one of their last messages that was sent this morning from my fiance. He literally said, "I know I should regret that, but I don't." I then told him to pack up his crap and that we would talk about this at home. I told my sister I was disgusted and that she should leave me alone. So I haven't technically called anything off, but I'm going to take the next couple of days to really sit with things. I can't imagine being able to go back to him after all of this, because right now I feel really sick. I don't want to be anywhere near my sister, but I would rather be here to have space from my fiance. I think right now I just haven't truly processed what this means as I'm seeing red. And as mad as I am with my fiance, I feel so betrayed by my sister that has quite literally been with me through all of my ups and downs. So honestly, I am so distraught and I seriously just don't know what to do. Oh my gosh, this is some heavy crap, dude. Like seriously, this is unbelievably toxic and I can't believe that your fiance and your sister did this. But worst of all, your fiance doesn't regret any of it. Like he literally admitted that in a text message, dude. Like what's going on right now? Your sister is a snake and your fiance is a piece of garbage. Like dude, what's going on right now? And I think your tactic of just sitting there and letting them talk was the best thing possible, because either someone's gonna lie or someone's gonna freak out and start crying. And funny enough, both of those things happened. So yeah, I don't blame you for being upset and I don't blame you for taking your time to figure things out, but I can definitely speak for myself when I say that there's no way I would ever marry someone like this, because you're dealing with someone who is willingly able to like ruin your life and ruin your family in one fell swoop. And the fact that he feels no remorse for this, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay for a new car my mom bought me that I quite literally told her I do not want? Because she seriously expects me to pay her back when I turn 18. And at this point, I'm honestly so frustrated that I really just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So I was gifted driving lessons by my mom a few months ago as a late birthday present, and I was very grateful and very happy to go to the lessons because it's a skill that opens up more job opportunities, as I'm currently finding it hard to get a job. She said I should buy a car with a savings account I receive when I turn 18, and I have said multiple times I do not want a car, and I don't want to spend any of that money before I've even received it. She was even going to view cars and I wouldn't go, and I made it very clear that I was not interested. I have a bus pass, so I don't need a car for travel, and when I leave for university, I will have literally no use for it. Well, while I was away on holiday with my dad, she went behind my back and bought me a $4,000 car I wasn't expecting. When I saw it, I started crying as I thought she bought it from her own pocket, and I was incredibly grateful. But the next day, she took me for a drive in the new car, and I said I was so excited to have my own car, only for her to start shouting at me and tell me that it wasn't mine until I was 18 and when I paid her back. Now, my dad estimated there would be about $7,000 in the savings fund, which I am eternally grateful and thankful for, but I don't think over half of that money should be spent on a car. I told her I would have appreciated her telling me before she bought the car, and I would have liked to have had an input on the decision. And when I said that, she just kept getting angrier. So I finally told her I would not be paying her back. She said that's what the account was made for, and that I'm going against my parents' wishes. Well, ever since then, she has been screaming at me, calling me a thief, saying that I'm a liar and a cheater. She has even started asking me for things that she has bought for me back, such as the new pair of trainers that she bought me, since my old ones were literally falling apart, and I was just getting made made fun of at college for it. She also gives me some money for food, which she has now stopped, and she won't even look at me. I've spoken to my dad, and he says the money in the account was for me to spend on whatever I like, but my mom obviously doesn't agree. I understand completely this is a minor issue, and I will still be getting a lot of money, but for me, I'm more concerned about the way that she's handled the situation, even though I'm not entirely surprised about what she did. So seriously, am I the jerk for not wanting to pay for a car I don't even want? Because right now I'm honestly very upset. Okay, this is so counterintuitive, it's not even funny. So you're telling me she bought you a car that you didn't want out of this account that she's been putting money into and is now trying to be like, you owe me money for this. And it's like, dude, why would you pay for a car that you didn't want, that you didn't buy? She's almost trying to like put you in debt retroactively in the future for something that you didn't purchase. And it's like, dude, is your mom an idiot or what? Because as far as I'm concerned, that savings account is not yours until you're 18. And whatever money's in there, whether it's $3,000 or $7,000, is, in my opinion, completely irrelevant until then. So there's no possible way you can owe her money in the future for something that she's spending right now on something you didn't ask for. That'd be like me buying someone a computer and being like, oh man, when you're 18, you're gonna owe me a lot of money for this computer. Because then at that point, you could be like, okay, well forget it, I don't want it. In fact, I never even asked for it. Why are you somehow indebted to her for something that she bought that you don't want and you told her you don't want? Like, this is so backwards and unnecessary, it's just not even funny. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, and I think your mom is being incredibly weird. I feel that my friendship with my former roommate is coming to a close, as it really seems like she's changed for the worse ever since I moved out. And now I'm wondering if I might be overreacting in this situation because everything seems incredibly weird, and I seriously just don't know how to handle it. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I met my best friend freshman year of college. We clicked instantly despite being polar opposites, and for the past 3 years, we've basically been joined at the hip. We've lived together in every apartment, we've shared rooms, we've traveled, done groceries together, so much so that we started calling each other our home wife. For over a year, I'd been on a wait list for our dream apartment. Exponentially cheaper rent, a private room and bathroom, close proximity to the school, and less roommates. The first time I was offered a spot, I turned it down because they only had room for me and we are supposedly a package deal. Well, fast forward a year and we're currently living in an 8-girl, 4-room apartment. My friend's family member was planning to move in with us so that they could have a support system while starting school for a second time. About a week before their move-in date, the dream apartment called, and this time with 2 spots for the upcoming school year. Well, I told my friend immediately, and when I said this, she was torn. She didn't want to abandon her family member, but she also didn't want to pass up the apartment. But after thinking it over, I decided to take the contract. I'm a broke, fully independent student. I don't have a car, I have no family help, I'm working full-time while in school full-time just to afford tuition and food. Saving money is survival for me, which at first is something that I thought she understood. She eventually chose to stay at our current apartment because her mom bribed her to, and we plan to transfer my current spot to her family member so they could share a room with people that they're familiar with. But here's the thing, her reaction ever since then has been really weird. She's been shutting me out, saying we won't see each other again because we'll be too busy, even though we'll literally live like 2 minutes away on the same block. I have suggested Sunday dinners, study nights, watch parties, etc., which she flat out says she won't put in the effort because she's a homebody and she's too lazy for that kind of thing. Now, for some extra context, I know my friend doesn't love socializing, but her mom has made it my chore to help her socialize at least once every couple of months. Despite her mom constantly asking me to take her out, I won't force her into situations that she doesn't want, but she still gets super upset when I go hang out with my other friends, and she's pretty direct about it. Not because I didn't think to invite her, as she hates pretty much everyone I know, but because I should be spending more of my time with her. On top of that, I've been the only one to ever clean for the 2 of us, despite multiple talks about it in the past, and was refused any help with apartment hunting this entire time simply because she has a different budget, which also means she would miss out on video game time. At times during our friendship, I felt more like a nanny than a friend, especially these past couple of months. For years, I've prioritized finding places that fit both of our budgets, but she's always been financially supported by her parents, namely with rent, groceries, the car, and school, so the cost of things has never really been an issue for her. I've compromised before to make sure that we could live together, but this time I chose myself. And now I'm honestly wondering if she's ready to let our friendship just completely fizzle out just because we aren't under the same roof, and I'm the only one trying to make plans, plus doing all the maintenance work in the friendship. Maybe this friendship has just run its course. So am I overreacting by thinking about ending it here instead of dragging out what feels like a one-sided friendship? Because right now I really just don't know what to do. Oh man, yeah, it doesn't sound like she's a good friend at all. Like seriously, it seems like she's like only a friend out of convenience instead of one who's like really willing to like go to bat for you. And that just straight up sucks. You deserve to have friends who care about you and have your best interests in mind, especially when it comes to your living situation, man. Like why is she so lazy about this? And honestly, if there's not like a lot of socializing going on in this lady's life, then that falls on her. That's not your responsibility. Like, of course you can invite her and be like, hey, come along with me. Let's do this thing. It'll be fun. But you can't force her to go. If she's too lazy and she's a homebody, well then congratulations. That's what you're gonna be. Like, you shouldn't have to stifle your social interactions with others that she clearly hates for some stupid reason, just because she's too lazy to find more friends and like expand her network. Like, that's so dumb in my opinion. Like, I just can't stand people who act like that. They want to hold you back all because they've stunted their growth socially. And I don't know about you, but like the fact that parents are like, I don't know, bankrolling her entire life, like that doesn't seem healthy. She literally has everything handed to her and she has like no struggles in life. She's coming from a place of like intense privilege. So it's like, okay, well, what are we supposed to do here? So no, I don't blame you for feeling that way, and I don't think you're overreacting. It sounds like she was never a good friend, and that's really sad to say, and I'm sure you don't want to hear that, but I really think that might be the truth, especially with the way she's been acting. Am I the jerk for ignoring my best friend's calls, even though I know he's only going to ask me for money? Because he still owes me a lot of money from the previous loan I gave him, and at this point I'm honestly exhausted and I just don't want to deal with that ever again. Here's what's going on. Okay, so this one has been kind of eating me up, so I'm throwing it on the internet for someone to help me out. I'm a 28-year-old male and I have this friend who we will call Sam. I've known this guy for more than 10 years and we are best friends, but we live in different cities for our jobs. A couple months back, he was having some family issues and needed about 20,000 rupees, which is about $200 in American currency. He promised he would return it within the month and I trusted him. I didn't even think twice. Well, fast forward to now 8 months later and I still have not received a single dollar back. Now, I brought this up twice, but both times he just said to me, bro, I'm sorting it out, just a few more days. But of course, nothing happened. Now, trust me, I get it. Life's tough and I'm not heartless. But recently, he has started calling me nonstop. And I just knew that he was gonna ask me for more money. So you know what? I just didn't pick up the phone. I didn't want to deal with another sob story, another guilt trip, and I do feel kind of crappy about it, but also, I'm not his ATM. I have helped him once and he still owes me, and now he's acting like I owe him more just because we're friends. So am I the jerk for ghosting his calls when I know he probably is just gonna ask for money? Because right now I'm honestly not sure what to do. Okay, first of all, I don't blame you for turning him away because this is some stupid behavior. This guy's literally treating a friend of 10 years like an ATM instead of being respectful and actually paying you back for the last time you loaned him money. And to that end, I don't blame you for a second for being like, I'm not dealing with this, I can't do this right now. Because yes, he is only using you for money. He doesn't ask you for anything else, and he's only getting in contact with you when he wants some quick cash, and that's honestly not fair in my opinion. So if he really is a good friend and you really are best friends, then maybe it's time to talk to him and be like, look, you can't keep treating me this way, I don't appreciate this. And if he really is a good friend, he'll understand, but if he freaks out, then clearly this friendship was pretty shallow. Because you deserve to be treated way better than someone's personal ATM machine. My stepbrother is unbelievably entitled, as his rich parents have spoiled him with basically anything he's ever wanted his entire life. But after he tried that crap with me, I ended up having to shut him down, giving him a newsflash about how the world actually works. Here's what happened. I'm a 28-year-old female and I have a stepbrother who's been making my life a living nightmare since the day my mom married his dad. Don't get me wrong, I've tried to be understanding and welcoming, but his sense of entitlement is suffocating. Now, here's the thing. Our parents are loaded, like crazy rich loaded, and they've spoiled him rotten since day one. He's never had to lift a finger to get what he wants. If he wants a new car, he gets it. If he wants a fancy vacation, they're gonna book it for him. If he wants someone to do his laundry or cook his meals, well, consider it done. But what's even more infuriating is that he started to expect the same treatment from me. He'll show up to my apartment unannounced, expecting me to drop everything to hang out or do favors for him. He will borrow money from me without paying me back, or use my stuff without even asking. And if I ever try to set boundaries or tell him no, he gets angry and acts like I'm the one who's being unreasonable. But the final straw came last weekend. He showed up at my place expecting me to drive him to a concert because his parents had forgotten to get him tickets for the VIP meet and greet. When I told him I had plans and I couldn't take him, he had the nerve to get upset and accuse me of being selfish and not supportive. And it's at that moment that I had simply had enough. I sat him down and I told him, listen, I'm not your personal servant or your ATM. I'm your stepsister, and it's time you started treating me with some kind of respect. You've been handed everything on a silver platter your entire life, and it's made you into this entitled brat. Well, newsflash, the world doesn't owe you a living. You need to start taking responsibility for yourself and your actions. When I said this, he looked at me like I had slapped him in the face. I guess nobody's ever told him the hard truth before, but you know what? I'm not sorry. Someone seriously needs to knock him off of his pedestal and teach him what it means to be a decent human being. Okay, honestly, good for you. This is like seriously needed because this guy does sound incredibly entitled. Like, holy crap, this guy gets new cars and fancy fancy vacations whenever he wants, and then he goes to you expecting the exact same thing but with like concert tickets? Like, what's going on right now? If his parents are so loaded, why go to you to try and get any kind of money? Just go to them and be like, Mommy, Daddy, I need the VIP tickets, please. And then I'm sure they'll throw it at him just so he stops talking to them. Which, by the way, raising your kids like that is not healthy and really stupid, because then you get an adult 22-year-old stepbrother like the original poster has to deal with, who literally has everything handed to him and just doesn't understand what the word no means. So yeah, overall, good for you for putting him in his place, because this guy sounds incredibly spoiled, and that is definitely not something that you should have to deal with in the slightest. Am I the jerk for backing out of helping my sister babysit her kids? All because my mom basically forbid me from helping her out. Because this has caused a lot of infighting and I really don't know what to do now. Here's what's going on. I'm a 19-year-old female and I have two sisters who we will call Rue and Becky. Both have 4 kids each, all under the age of 8. For context, I babysit Becky's kids for free all the time, at least once a week or every other week, whether she has a party, a wedding, or just wants to have a date night, and I've never complained about it. A few days ago, Becky asked if I wanted to go to New Jersey with her because she needed to buy some things. Well, I said no to her and then she just straight up hung up on me. But yesterday she asked again and I said no again. And it's then that she told me the real reason she wanted me to go. She wanted to go with her friend, but when she told her husband, he said that he didn't feel comfortable with her taking all 4 kids to New Jersey alone. And for a bit of context, this is like a 2-hour drive each way. She said I could either go with her to help out the kids or watch them at her house. So I just chose to watch them at her house. And for context, and I didn't tell her this, but the last time I went to New Jersey with her, it was an absolute nightmare. And trust me, that's a story for another day. Well, she agreed to this and I went to go and tell my mom. But when I told my mom, she immediately flipped out, saying Becky takes advantage of people and that it's not my responsibility if her husband doesn't want her alone with the kids, and that if it is an issue, he should take off work and take the kids with him. My mom then told me that I wasn't allowed to watch them simply out of principle. I then called Becky and I told her that I simply couldn't do it. And when I said this, she called me a jerk because she's been wanting to go to New Jersey for a while and I apparently knew that. Now, I thought that was the end of it, but it just completely blew up from there. It turns out my mom was also going to New Jersey that day and called Becky to see if she wanted anything. Becky then hung up on her, which made my mom furious, and Becky later called Rue to vent. But Rue said that she didn't blame me at all because she remembers how bad the last trip was. Now, Becky is saying I started a whole mess because I told mom, which caused a fight between the two of them. She said that she doesn't ask for much, and that if she can't rely on her sisters, then who can she rely on? I feel like this got blown way out of proportion, and maybe I should have just told her the truth from the start about why I didn't want to go. And now my other 2 sisters are also saying I'm the jerk, and while it's not for saying no, it is for just not telling Becky the truth from the start and dragging mom into it. So seriously, am I at fault here? Because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, I gotta be honest here. Becky sounds incredibly high maintenance, and this would probably be the last time I would ever babysit for her ever again if I was in this situation. Like, this is some crazy entitled behavior in my opinion, and seriously, you do not deserve this in the slightest. Because guess what? Becky's children are her responsibility and not yours. And yes, you've helped out in the past, but like, the way she's acting is just completely out of line. Because you have every right to talk to your mom about whatever you want to talk about. You're 19 years old, for God's sakes. You're not a kid anymore, and you definitely can make your own decisions. So across the board, I think everybody else in this story is a massive jerk, especially if they're somehow blaming the situation on you, because in my opinion, you didn't do anything wrong. And if anything, they got to get their priorities straightened out, because this is definitely not your problem. Thanks for watching. Subscribe down below if you haven't already. And also, please subscribe to Am I the Genius? I think you're going to love what they're making over there. It's a great channel and you should definitely check it out. Everything will be linked down below in the description. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.